Ladies and gentlemen, let's go. Let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
There's only been one person that has criticized me on that.
Yeah.
And it was somebody who hates fun who said,
well, I guess we're not going to know who that is. We're going to go to break.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Listen, Beards, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. Not today, man. Not today. We are out at Big 12 Media Days. I thought we dropped there. Like in my ear, I heard the burping, and I'm like, oh no, because Lebo and I just spent the last 10 minutes getting connected, and there was an issue with the internal codec error, as we're all very familiar with. Obviously, most everybody listening too. It's the old internal codec error. I turned it off and turned it back on. Didn't work. My job was done. I left it then to Lebo and other people. So we connected right around 10 o'clock. And he had been connected for like an hour. And all of a sudden, right as we were getting ready to put the headsets on, it disconnected. So then I hear the open, and I hear the burping, and my heart drops, my stomach. I get oh, man, don't do that to me, Beards.
With any luck, Beards is going to pick a liner like that every single segment today. And it's just going to, we're going to just we're going to kickstart this show by giving you a bunch of mini heart attacks over and over.
You know what I don't want you to do is act like you maybe play like a robotic voice. Is it like, that, or is it, right? I don't want you to do. I
think we've got a few liners like that I can bounce around.
Yeah,
with.
I
think you're going to have to keep your head on a swivel today. Yeah.
Can't wait. Just cannot wait for that throughout the show. You know what the problem is? It's going to be the boy that cried wolf.
That's right.
Because then it might actually happen, and I'm not going to know it. I'm just going to keep rolling, and I'm going to have the best segment I've ever had in my life that I've been preparing for 15 years for, and it's just going to be off into the ether, and nobody's going to hear it.
That noon hour is looking pretty ripe for a disconnection.
Yes. Can we just put that right up there with Scott Barlow and Nicky Lopez? Can we connect what is more than likely going to be our conversations with Bill Self coming up around 12:15 and Jerome Tang around 12:30?
You're going to have a Kansas City Sports Hall of Fame of just lost interviews. We're really going to stack it up. Eventually we're going to have little George Brett one-on-one. Maybe you scoop Mahomes at training camp next year. Something along those lines of really making some awesome radio for the aliens that are getting our transmissions.
The greatest interviews never heard.
Yes. And the people can never question if they were great or not because they have no evidence.
I really, really liked the Barlow and Nicky Lopez interview. At the Final Four 10 years ago, might have been, 5 or 6 years ago, I was doing an interview with Bo Ryan, head coach of Wisconsin, formerly head coach of Wisconsin, and he did the full-on ham bone, the slapping of the knees, ham bone, all that stuff for 3 minutes straight on the air with me. We were taping the interview, and it was amazing, and it didn't record. And I didn't have the guts to go and ask him, hey, man, can you come over? Let's do another interview, and can you do that whole ham bone thing that you did for me?
It's a tough
That was
ask.
very nice. It's very nice of you to do because he didn't – I had seen a video, doing prep work, which always preparing, Josh. And
sure.
I had
ABP.
seen a video to where they were like, hey, Bo Ryan, when he was growing up, they would do this as kids, and that's, he knows the whole thing. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to ask him. And he was like, well, do you want me to do it? I'm like, yes, I do. This is unreal. Go do it. I promise you he did it, and it was great. It was really good. He and I are the only ones that know that.
Think about how many more times you've been able to tell that story by it being lost. That it's really a gift.
Great point. It's a great point because it would have been heard once, and then everybody would have moved on and said, oh, that was cool that Bo Ryan did that. And then I would have never brought it up again. But now anytime we have an interview that does not run, I can just continue to bring that up, and everybody can continue to get reminded that Bo Ryan was actually pretty cool.
Imagine how much run you would have gotten out of, you won't believe how big of a bleep Solomon Wilcots was to me.
No, that one had to be on the. Had to be.
We needed
that
evidence
one had
for
to go
one.
over the air.
Yeah.
Just explaining it doesn't do it justice, right?
No.
For him to say that I have a low level of emotional intelligence on the air.
Right. The fact that he's right notwithstanding, it's a crazy thing to say on the radio to someone you just met.
totally true. And my first response was, have you been talking to my wife? What are you doing, Solomon? Are you talking to Kalen? You stay out of that. Mitch is already there. Come on, that turf is already.
You're opening up a real can of worms there that I was not going to open for you. But I mean, if you're going to crack it, I guess it's there for all of us.
And I never thought I would be talking to Solomon Wilcots. He would be across from me, and I would tell somebody who I respect and I think is really smart to say, well, you have a low level of actual intelligence. I never thought I would say that to somebody on the air besides you, Corey, Beards, us that we hang out and
using people you respect.
Make fun of each other.
Yeah, I mean,
yes,
yeah, that's different.
I only tell that to people that I respect.
Exactly.
If I've never told you that you have a low level of intelligence, it means that I've given up on you. It means I'm done coaching you, okay? Then I actually believe it.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
All right, 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation, 913-912-4810. We are hanging out at Big 12 Media Days, T-Mobile Center, as basketball media days going on. And, yes, we are planning to talk with Bill Self coming up around 12:15 or so, Jerome Tang around 12:30. And then, of course, the entree would be Mick Shaffer at around 1 o'clock. So we can kind of get the riffraff out of the way. Okay, thanks, Coach Self, national champion. Ooh, cool ring. Hey, Jerome Tang, taking over K-State. A lot of stuff to talk about. Cool ring, But now we're bringing in Mick Shaffer, okay? And that guy's got a wedding ring that he's still wearing. So
less cool ring, more cool ranch once Mick Shaffer gets here.
That's exactly right. As long as it's cool, though, it is cool. COOL. So Mick Shaffer will join us. We'll do some shot clock reviews as well. That is after we hear from the Chiefs coming up around 11:45. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, TBD on the players, because we also don't know that we'll be hearing from the players, because if whichever player's at the podium and Bill Self sits down, I'm going to talk to Bill Self.
Seems fair.
Yeah, that's just what's going to happen. That's just how it goes. Look, if we're going to go to L'Jarius Sneed live or talk to the national championship basketball coach, I'm going to choose
L'Jarius Sneed. Oh, God, man. We are. I always think I have you figured out, and then all of a sudden.
You're getting close. You are getting close. I mean, that was just the exact opposite of what I was thinking, but I really do think you're getting close to really cracking that nut, man. You're so close to being able to get inside that pistachio. And believe me, it's worth it. Juice is worth the squeeze, okay? So
is this you offering to just open us up to a nice first segment talking about Isaiah Pacheco? Because I'm ready.
That's right. See, and now I'm starting to get to know you. And so by getting to know you, all of the things that I wrote down about let's talk about Isaiah Pacheco, I remember, oh, wait, Josh loves him.
Yes.
Let's not talk about him ever.
No, you
know what they need?
You planted the seed of the pistachio. You knew we'd get there.
Yeah. That's a good point. But see, the issue with the running game, I think they need to give more touches to a running back.
Yeah.
But they haven't been. Ronald Jones. That's what I've been saying, really.
Yeah,
it's not point. Pacheco. It is Ronald Jones. That's the secret sauce right there, man. If you just give him the ball more, I could be blocking for that guy, and he's going to pick up 4 or 5 yards. It's well known around the NFL.
I mean, look, if that's not true, it would be nice to have some evidence to disprove it even. I would be willing to see number 2 on the field. I'd be okay with it personally.
All I have to go off of is the last time we saw him carry the football for the Chiefs, and he looked pretty damn good in that game.
That's true. Yeah. Was he going against the 3s? Who cares? He looked pretty good.
I mean, 3s, the 4s, whatever it is. 913-912-4810. So we'll hear from the Chiefs. We'll hear from hopefully Bill Self, Jerome Tang, Mick Shaffer. Cynthia Frelund will be our guest coming up at 11 o'clock, NFL Network analytics expert. We talk with her each and every Wednesday at 11, and today is no different. We'll talk with her about the Chiefs and Bills, what she saw from that game, anything to take away from that, her assessment in one of the things that we'll plan on talking about this hour in terms of how the defense for the Chiefs seems to be part of helping them or bailing them out in certain games. The offense not at least scoring at the rate we have seen them in past consistently, but also the rate in which teams are running man-to-man defense against the Chiefs' offense, the rate in which teams are dropping 8 or dropping 7, one of those being a spy on Patrick Mahomes, which is what the Bengals did and which is what the Bills did with Matt Milano. Like the Bengals, quote-unquote, dropped 8, but one of those was a spy. It was like Sam Hubbard, right? One of those guys was just like hanging out there, and he wasn't actually rushing. So it's like, oh, they're only bringing 3. Right, they're bringing 3. And when Mahomes gets outside of the pocket, there is a linebacker or somebody stalking him. And so they're kind of dropping 7 with a spy and whatever. So we know that that's going on with the defense at some rate that is certainly higher than what we have seen against the Chiefs. So that level of adjustment by defenses that have been made against the Chiefs offense since the AFC Championship game, but also the adjustments that are being made by the offenses against the Chiefs defense. It's back-to-back weeks that's been heavy personnel against the Chiefs and running the football, and it's the 2 games in which they've given up the most rushing yards. It's the 2 games that it looks like the rushing defense has been lackluster, has been subpar, and it comes right after us talking about, this rushing defense I think is legit. I think it's real. I think the rushing defense is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. In fact, I'm going to bet my mortgage on this team still having a really good rush defense 2 weeks from now.
I'm going to be a little generous to ourselves here.
I like it.
Because I do think that might have been after one Willie Gay-less game for the Chiefs that we were still bullish on the run defense, but it wasn't after all of them. And maybe I'm doubling down on my losses. Maybe I'm seeing red and therefore seeing red. But I actually still do think that this defense on all levels is going to kind of shift and settle back into form at least a little bit. With Willie Gay being the biggest piece returning, obviously, Trent McDuffie will be huge as well. But, I don't feel, even though it has been obviously a problem these last 2 weeks, I don't feel terrible about buying into the Chiefs' rejuvenated run defense because their most important linebacker's not out there.
I think I'm with you on the bigger picture of the defense settling back in and being a reliable unit, which, by the way, we say reliable. They gave up 17 points in 58 minutes against the Bills. So,
yeah.
I mean, we are using relative terms all over the place here from 2018 to now. Like 2018, boy, this defense is really struggling, and they gave up 44. Now it's like, man, the defense didn't come through in the end because, they gave up that last touchdown for the Bills to get to 24. And, I mean, boy, how do they get better? So it's all relative, right? And we're talking about winning Super Bowls and not trying to just simply make the playoffs as a wild card team. But, yeah, there are always levels of improvement. Chris Jones talks about that constantly. Frank Clark talks about that constantly. And I think they'll settle back into being what I have deemed that I think this is a top 10 defense. What we're talking about specifically is what we've seen in the trend for teams the last 2 weeks to go heavy, to go extra offensive lineman with the Raiders and a fullback, to go fullback 21 personnel with the Bills as often as they did compared to how often they typically use that, putting the Chiefs into their base package and Leo Chanel being out there the last 2 weeks more than he had been out there this year at all, except for the Chargers game, I think is the only one where he played more than 15% of the snaps. Could be wrong on those exact numbers, but I think it was the Chargers was the game that stood out before these last 2 weeks of how often Leo Chanel played. But these last 2 weeks, I think there is certainly a theme. So that is something definitely that I want to get Cynthia's thoughts on as to, is she seeing anything? Is there a trend with that that we're finding out about teams adjusting to it? KC Sports Network, Craig Stout has some really interesting points there about the offenses, what they're doing, the tendencies, and the switching up some of the strategy against the Chiefs defense that is up there. If you want to go check it out, I may bring up a couple of those points as we roll along. So that's how the show lines up. 913-912-4810 is the text line. So what do you want to start with, Josh? Do you want to start with the sort of the offense, defense, a little bit more in depth of what we're talking about here? Do we want to get right to Travis Kelce's conversation in his podcast with his brother about the contract restructure and what that may mean? Where would you like to start?
I think we can do the bigger picture offense defense stuff later with the other Kelce clip if we end up wanting to do that later in the show to play around with some of the steps of where the team goes. But I feel like I'm not gonna say it was. I'm not gonna say that it was. It needed to be said levels of Twitter teaser material. But I think what the Kelce's talked about with Travis's contract restructuring, both one gives you an honest look at where Travis Kelce's head's at in that process, and two, some absolutely irresponsible, baseless speculation that I'm totally here for. So I think that's sort of the light news sprinkling of the morning.
That's a lot on the plate. That is a lot to choose from on the plate that you get all in one helping. You know, it's like a buffet.
It's a whole plate just covered in like 60 seconds. It's what a great buffet.
I mean, that's really the best way to rock a buffet. You get all the food, 60 seconds, get back up there again.
Right.
Let's hear Travis Kelce and the conversation he had with his brother, and I think this starts with Jason Kelce and the contract restructure with Travis Kelce. And then, of course, they get into, is there a bigger picture to this specific move by the Chiefs?
All right, we got some news out today. You had a little contract negotiated.
Yes, I did.
Can you put us in behind the scenes with that a little bit? What happened?
I'm not sure yet. It's a start to a move, right?
Do you think so?
You're freeing up cap space to be able to do something. Yeah, my agent just hit me up and said that they want to free up some cap space. So I was like, I get the money now? All right.
Why not? Seems like a no-brainer.
And it frees up cap space for us to get better as a team.
So you cannot verify or debunk the rumors out there surrounding OBJ?
Odell Beckham Jr.?
That's the OBJ I'm referring to.
I want them to come true. I have not heard anything in the locker room or anything around the facility.
All right, playing a little coy with it. I get it.
Something's in the air for sure. And if it means OBJ...
Well, we can neither confirm nor deny, but we will speculate and look forward to seeing OBJ in a Chiefs uniform.
So I haven't seen the video of that, and let me tell you, when he says something's in the air, if he did not do the Brian Windhorst, then what are we even doing here? I mean, what's the point of even having the video, Travis, if when you go, something's in the air, and you're not doing the fingers, pointing at the sky, back and forth like Brian Windhorst, then, just get better. That's all. I'm just saying a little more practice may be needed. But a few of the things he said, that it's a start to a move. That's what Travis Kelce said. He said his agent told him they want to free up cap space. He then followed that up by saying, I get my money and we get better. That's awesome. And then something's in the air as well.
Hoo-hoo-hoo.
Yep, and I forgot to write down, quote, hoo-hoo-hoo. Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get the center of a Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop? 1, 2, hoo-hoo-hoo. 3. Hold on, let me play it after I say 2. All right, ready? Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop? 1, 2, 3. 3. That's an oldie but goodie. If you know, you know.
I think that you, I, and Travis Kelce apparently all have that one exact register in our voices, because I think all three of us have been able to go, and I can't even tell the difference anymore.
Do you know the reference of the Mr. Owl?
I do.
The 1, 2, who?
I
okay,
do.
Thank goodness.
I do.
Thank goodness.
I do.
I didn't want to be out here on an island.
No, I'm
by
with you.
myself.
That
between
one's
the
so
three of us.
old that it was old for you
Right.
also, and then it's also
right.
just also old for me, and we're both men of culture, so.
Yes, we are the Bob Costas of when it comes to Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pops.
The world's most iconic candy? Hard to say. But as I unwrap the layers of this Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop, I have to ask myself the question, how many licks would it take? That's
3,
my limited
Bob.
Bob Costas.
3.
I didn't know I had that, but apparently I do. It really wanted to come out there.
My limited Ron Darling would be 3. 3 licks, because then you bite into it. Comes the next pitch.
We basically got an improv team.
They kind of do on the broadcast, which is great.
Yeah.
By the way, it is one of my favorite things is to follow the Bob Costas and the Ron Darling tweets out there. I don't know if you've seen. I'm assuming
seen a
you've seen
couple,
that 'cause
Yeah.
you've seen everything on
Yeah,
Twitter.
I try to say we're already plugged into the Matrix.
But it's been going on for a few days, and boy, there are some doozies. There are some fun ones there. So yeah, we may throw a few of them out there with that.
Yeah.
Do you make anything of Travis Kelce saying those words, or is it just okay? His agent said they want to free up cap space. Awesome, they want to free up cap space to then have the opportunity later on down the road to claim people off waivers if need be, to actually make a trade, to keep the lights on, as I've talked about. That there's some procedural things that they do need money for, just to simply continue to run a business and keep the roster and everything. Do you think he knows something, or he's putting two and two together like a lot of fans are?
Yeah, I would slice that audio in half and say that there's one half where it's like actually really interesting and one half that is, I'll start with the second half.
Okay.
You say something's coming. Jason Kelce goes, "You think so?" And then Travis sort of backs off a little bit, like, "Well, I mean, yeah, like no one said anything, but it would make sense, right?" My hunch there is very much that Travis Kelce genuinely does not know anything serious behind the scenes. He's just putting two and two together like we are. And then even with that, just the amount of money that they restructured, it isn't enough for like a huge splash. It is that wiggle room amount of money you need, like you said, to kind of just keep up with business the rest of the year. You could still do a splash thing. It would just need to be on a deal that stretches more of that money later on. So they physically could sign, I almost said Orlando Brown. They could physically sign Odell Beckham Jr. and figure out some of the money there, but I certainly don't think it's a guarantee by any means. The first half of that is almost the more unique perspective, because I think the second perspective is kind of just how you and I are talking about the cap right now, of like, oh, maybe, here's what they could do. The first half is interesting just because, was it 2 off seasons ago where Tyreek Hill was asked to, the Chiefs wanted to do essentially this, and Rosenhaus and Hill basically just sort of declined to do that, or declined to do much restructuring at all. In this case, Travis is saying, I got my money a little sooner. You guys got a little room to make the team a little better. This is legitimately a win-win. And it's nice to just hear that from a player who's been in the league for a while, to know that that is probably the more common way of those things being handled. I don't think, real quick on the difference between Kelce and Hill, I do not think that they even had to ask Travis Kelce to do this. I think you simply can do it unilaterally as the team. I'm guessing the Chiefs and Hill wanted to do some restructuring that maybe changed the math down the line. So they're not exactly the same. But I think it's interesting to get the player's perspective on getting some free money a little early. The team's happy, I'm happy, everybody's good.
See, I think the Kelce and Tyreek Hill thing, I think they're different from this standpoint, that restructuring, I think, is the wrong term that was used at the time. I think it was extending would have been the right term, because he only had 1 year. He only had 1 year left on his deal.
Yeah.
So whatever they saved that year, they would have to load to that next year.
Right.
They would have to put it all on that next year. And I think approaching him, it would be, hey, can we add some years to this contract? And I think he just really wanted to be a free agent.
Definitely.
I think that was
totally different ball of wax if it would have delayed free agency. That's a good call.
Yeah, and so with only, because Kelce's got 3 years left after this year, you can move the money you saved and split it between 3 years. Whatever they saved that year, they were throwing to the next year.
Yeah,
and then they would have been in the exact same boat that next year. So I don't know the strategy behind, we're freeing up money now this year, and we're going to take all of this money, maybe $10 million that we freed up, and we're going to load it onto your salary cap number next year. Oh, and next year at this time, we're not going to ask you to negotiate or anything and have an extension of your contract. I think he said no because, look, man, I know that you guys stuck by me. I stuck by you, team friendly as well. I want to hit free agency. I want to get paid as the highest paid receiver in the NFL, and the Chiefs found that out this year, and that's why they ended up trading him. Yeah. So I do think that's a little bit different. But you're right. I think the wording may be that Travis Kelce, because Mahomes doesn't have a choice if they restructure his contract from roster bonus to signing bonus, and Kelce may be the same thing. Yeah.
I think everybody is. If you turn it into a prorated roster bonus that just stretches that money out over 3 years, they just get paid sooner, and the cap just gets adjusted. So I don't. If there is any sort of refusal right from a player, I don't know why you would do it, because it's just more money sooner. But yeah, I thought it was interesting to hear it be such a amicable, this sounds good, sort of casual thing. I also think it's at least a little interesting that he said he would like for Odell Beckham to end up in Kansas City.
See, and that's the part that I think is interesting, is that you wonder, okay, they bring this guy in, does it tick off Juju and MVS and McCole Hardman? What's the issue there in the locker room? Those guys saying, whoa, we're not good enough? Is there a collective, heck yeah, bring him in, we're trying to win a ring, man, because MVS doesn't have a ring, Juju doesn't have a ring, Sky Moore, he doesn't have a ring, Justin Watson does, McCole's got one, but those guys, and they obviously won another one, but those guys, would they object at Odell Beckham Jr. joining the wide receiver group, when they may look at it and go, all right, man, I'm not getting 1,500 yards receiving. All right, I'm not getting 12 touchdowns this year. I'm not getting 120 passes. So I may get a little bit less than I'm already getting, but I can get that ring on my finger. Yeah, let's do it. It's just a matter of how somebody goes about it and approaches that particular season, and what they view their role on a team is, and how valued they are on that team, and how valued they believe they should be on that team. And so from Travis Kelce's perspective, who was very secure in his position, his playing time and targets and numbers and touch. They ain't going down. So Mahomes is still going to be throwing to Kelsey. It's just a matter of the snap percentage and the playing time for a Juju or MVS or Sky Moore or McColl or Justin Watson would end up decreasing there. So is there an issue with that? I would say no, because you're joining it's the Chiefs and it's Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and it's Travis Kelsey and it's get on board or get out. And so I think you would have to have that overall collective view.
Yes.
And if there's a me player, then it'll get figured out, and it might be a figured out as in you're not playing as much anymore. So we're just doing other things here.
And if any pass catchers on the Chiefs, and really anybody other than Mahomes and Andy Reid, Travis Kelsey's the next guy up in terms of that vocal leadership who you're going to take the lead from. If he says, hey, you know what, guys? Everybody here is catching one fewer pass per game, and we want to have Odell Beckham on this team, period, because we think it's going to help us meet that goal. I think the rest of the team would rally around that. It's kind of interesting to just hear, yes, knee-jerk response, honest format of a podcast on a press conference or whatever, not a super political response, just, yeah, man, I'd love to have him here. That sounds cool. We at least know where he stands on that front then.
And we'll take a break in this one last point that even if you say, look, guys, it may be one less pass reception or target per game that you'll get adding in Odell Beckham Jr., you could then counter and say, yeah, guys, but after scoring the touchdown against the Bills, that offense went 3 and out. And then the next possession was a punt. And then the possession after that got down to the 33 but was a missed field goal. And then there was another field goal, and then there was a punt later on. And yeah, extend those drives. How many more targets do you get if that's not a 3 and out? If that's now a 9-play touchdown drive?
Yep.
Well, that's an extra touchdown on the board that wasn't there before. Is it you? Is it you, MVS, because you didn't have any yards? Is it you get a few more targets as that thing goes along? Yeah. If you're looking at the exact same specific breakdown of targets and plays and drives and results right now, then everybody would take a step back. But if you add somebody in like that and he becomes more dynamic for your offense, well, now you're extending the chains and everybody's getting more opportunities. Yep. So, number of ways of looking at it. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. The show lines up with Cynthia Frelund coming up at 11 o'clock. We'll hear Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes at about 11:45 or so. Bill Self, Jerome Tang in the noon hour as well. Mick Shaffer joining us at 1 o'clock. More Zone rolling along live from Big 12 Media Days next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
All right, NBA fans.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You could have also gone.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, welcome back here in the Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards. We head up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Cynthia Frelund coming up at 11. We'll hear from the Chiefs, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes coming up around 11:45 or so. And then we will hopefully be talking with Bill Self and Jerome Tang, Mick Shaffer at 1 o'clock. That all still to come here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We've got some other football and stuff to get into, but I did want to read some of these, Josh, because they are just so brilliant, and we haven't been reading them. And Bob Costas is not calling the game with Ron Darling, I believe, the ALCS. I think that'll be Brian Anderson will be play-by-play with Ron Darling and Jeff Rancour for the ALCS on TBS. So with that in mind, we read some of the very brilliant tweets that have gone on with the style in which Bob Costas calls a baseball game and the direct to the point that Ron Darling offers the color commentary of said baseball game, and what feels like the oil and water matchup or mix and combination team of Bob Costas and Ron Darling. Some of these tweets read as this, Josh. Bob Costas. Class A will finish the game. Just like the sand slips through the hourglass on a season, so too does this occur in the endeavor that we call life. This is not just the winner of the Guardian season, but also humanity. Ron Darling. That last pitch was a cutter.
I think
Bob
that's
Costas.
what I saw.
We're here in Cleveland, where the slight autumn chill in the air is a bleak reminder of the chilling fact that each day we are all spiraling towards the unavoidable conclusion we call death. Ron Darling. I think he goes fastball here. Bob Costas. And the tarp is being put out on the field, foreshadowing the shroud that will someday envelop us all as time continues to beat down on our exhausted bodies like the rain on hallowed Yankee Stadium tonight. Ron Darling. Ground crew's doing a pretty good job.
Here's a new one.
Go ahead.
While it may seem like a joyous night for fans on the banks of Lake Erie, the unfortunate truth remains. It is indeed possible that the Zodiac Killer, who has yet to be officially caught, could be among the Cleveland fans. Ron Darling. I think he held a swing there.
Bob Costas. On what is no doubt a beautiful evening for baseball, it's hard to ignore the fact that one day we will all take our last breath on this great earth. Then every record of our existence will vanish into the vast expanse of our universe. Ron Darling. Corner infielders playing in.
There's a real Eat Arby's energy to this version of only slightly exaggerated
Yes.
Bob Costas, and I love it.
Yes, Bob Costas. The bat is splintered, reminding us of the collapsing ecosystem in the Amazon. Countless trees ripped from the earth, unable to supply oxygen to this suffocating planet. Ron Darling. He was a bit early on that curveball. These are brilliant, man. There's hundreds of them. Hundreds of them. I want no one to escape. But even after admitting this, there is no catharsis in baseball. My punishment continues to elude me, and I gain no deeper knowledge of myself nor of the game. No new knowledge can be extracted from my telling. This confession in its entirety has really meant nothing. Ron Darling. He goes fastball here, I think.
That's another homer for Aaron Judge. It only can remind us all of the impending judgment that we all face. May it be a belief in a higher power or the simple cycle of morality. One day, the judge will bang the gavel for us all. The 2-2. I love this. I want to do this bit forever.
Oh man, it is brilliant. By the way, this text comes in that says, "Hey, did you hear anything about Tommy Townsend getting tested for PEDs?" Yeah, he tweeted it. He tweeted it, said nothing like a random PED test.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that random that the guy hits a 120 mile an hour punt or 120 yard punt?
I don't think that's how it works either. I mean, I'm not testing PEDs. I don't think you just take a PED and then you're hitting 80-yard bombs the next day. I'm not sure that's how PEDs work.
It may be the average yards per punt, the net yards per punt being first and second, and having a 74-yarder. Maybe it's just the collective of the entire season. Like, all right, I don't know what's getting into these punters these days, but let's check out that Tommy Townsend because he hit that thing a mile high. And these broadcasters have noticed it, and they're talking about it. And I wonder if people, just the general public, are wondering, is he on steroids?
That's right.
That's the one you would think of. Although steroids in baseball, nobody really thought Jason Grimsley would be one of the bigger users of steroids. Like, why would it be a reliever? Why would it be a punter? Oh, because he has those big-ass punts.
Do steroids or PEDs or HGH or anything do anything to your hair? Because I feel like we could either indict or acquit Tommy Townsend on the hair front alone. Is his hair too good to mean that he has been artificially enhanced, or is his hair so good that it could never be steroids? Because steroids would have, shrunk away the incredible hair follicles he's got up there.
If I noticed there were pimples on his hair, then yes, I would think that he had that steroids was a problem. So
if he suddenly had way more hair just because the overall surface area of his head had increased, then I get it.
What if? And I'm just spitballing here. Mark McGuire in the clubhouse, just back littered with pimples, right? And people like, just battling a little acne. It happens. What if Tommy Townsend's hair is just sort of a reverse beard,
it's
so
a
that
shield.
people do not see his back?
Tommy Townsend, you better get your story straight because we're coming for you. The zone has you in its crosshairs, which has been true for years, actually, but is even more true now in a much more aggressive sense.
Corey is crying right now. That is his favorite player that ever existed on this earth.
Corey had to actually leave because he figured out, he got all the clues before we did.
Yes.
And so he was like, I can't be here when the other shoe drops.
This text says, you think the NFL cares what the general public is thinking. Roughing the passer. That's pretty good.
Point. That's a good point.
All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. Cynthia Frelund, 11 o'clock. We'll hear from the Chiefs, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Bill Self, Jerome Tang, Mick Shaffer, all still to come here on this jam-packed Wednesday, hanging out at Big 12 Basketball Media Days on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I'm just being a smartass.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards. We head up until 2 o'clock. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert, will be our guest coming up at 11. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes out at the practice facilities around 11:45. Bill Self, Jerome Tang coming up in the noon hour. Mick Shaffer as well. If you have not been following or heard about the let's call it disagreement between Jerry Jones and Robert Kraft. Is that a very kind FCC way of putting what they had, a verbal spat?
Imagine two 1,000-year-old men hitting each other with $100 bills. That's how I envisioned it.
You know what it's back in the day when you would take off your glove and you would slap somebody and say,
Yes.
"I challenge you, sir, to a duel."
Yes.
He walked up with his $100 bills and just slapped Robert Kraft across the face and said, "Don't bleep with me." And Robert Kraft grabbed his $100 stack and slapped him across the face and said, "I shall bleep with you whenever I want."
It became a Monty Python skit for elderly rich guys very quickly.
So apparently the disagreement was over the contract negotiations for Roger Goodell, that Jerry Jones didn't really think that Roger Goodell deserved as much, I guess, of a bonus pool that was there because there was an unknown amount of how much it may be going to Roger Goodell. So Robert Kraft, being Roger Goodell's best friend, was like, yeah, we're going to give him whatever money we want. And Jerry Jones was like, maybe we be a little bit more economical on the money that we're giving Roger Goodell that everybody hates. I know that he is our meat shield out in front of everybody that's going to take all the slings and arrows for the decisions we ultimately make. And apparently Robert Kraft was like, "You're not getting your way. We're doing what we want to do." And Jerry Jones said, "Don't bleep with me." Robert Kraft said, "What did you say?" And he said, "Don't mess with me."
Wasn't Jerry Jones also the only one on the side?
Yep,
that he
31
was
to 1.
So, in other words, all of the owners decided to bleep with him.
That's right. Every single one of them bleeped with him. You know what he was? He was by himself in a glory hole. 31 to 1.
I had something to say, but now I'm afraid to.
That's what he said, right? He said he was looking for more glory hole. That for the Cowboys, what they needed to do and what they were trying to accomplish as a team
We
and
could
an organization.
We could stop calling it Jerry World and just start calling it the
Glory World. I mean,
Glory
it's whatever.
World. No, but it's more of like a void without glories because they haven't really
Okay.
won anything, substantial there. I love Jerry Jones preaching the gospel of restraint and frugality. Like that right there this story's hilarious. Don't hear me say I don't care about this story. I love this story. I can't believe that we have to sit here and seriously talk about two of the richest people you could imagine arguing over the salary of someone still richer than you could ever imagine.
Arguing over how much the commissioner of the NFL is going to get in a bonus pool.
Right.
Someone who took in $128 million over the last 2 years.
They're arguing over his Christmas bonus.
I think we should limit how much he gets. This is ridiculous how much we're paying him. He doesn't deserve $128 million in 2 years. At max, he's doing $120 million work. I mean, ridiculous.
I don't want to pay,
Why would we give him that
Roger
money?
Goodell, but that money belongs to me, Jerry Jones.
That $8 million should be split among the other 31 owners.
Right.
30. Dan Snyder gets nothing. But the other 30 owners should be able to get that $8 million split between us. Roger Goodell doesn't need that $8 million. Come on. Have you seen the roughing the passer issue going on right now? They didn't call anything on Dak's thumb.
Get it under control, Raj. Protect Dak, and maybe you can have your bonus pool.
Hey, Robert Kraft, you're not worried about Mac Jones' ankle? And he's like, no, we got Bailey Zappi, man. We're good. We got our next former first-rounder that moves out of the way for a late-round pick that was unheralded.
I would try to raise $8 million just to get the text threads of Jerry Jones, Dan Snyder, and Robert Kraft. Like, if it's the group chat or just those two guys individually, texting about the third one at any given point. I just have to imagine that would be the most like noteworthy work of literature since like the Odyssey. I just have to think that would reverberate throughout generations.
How about Jim Irsay being the one that developed the moral compass of we should vote Dan Snyder out? And be like, what? Because in a way, to me, it sort of makes sense. Because if Dan Snyder says that, he's had these private, or people are saying that Dan Snyder has hired these private investigators to go after NFL owners and find dirt, dig up dirt, and there's like 6 owners that he's got something on, so you'd better not vote against me or vote me out as the owner, Jim Irsay is probably like, what do you got on me? Like, I'm B Rabbit. I'm Eminem. I'm giving you all of the dirt. Everybody knows what's in my closet. My home has been wide open. My closet's wide open. Everybody sees that. I ain't throwing stones over here. I live in a glass house, all right? So I'm good. I'm just saying, whatever you find on me, I'm good with. Everybody knows it. So you should be voted out. The other owners are like, well, I have no idea what he's going to find on me. Does he know about that thing that year over in Tahoe? Does he know about that thing that year over when we were on vacation in Turks and Caicos? Like, I don't know. Does he know about the extra account I have over?
Well, listen, on that note, I do feel the need, no particular reason, but just Jason and Beard, so both of you know, I have never hired private investigators to look into your personal lives. I never would. I've never had anybody else hire private investigators to look into your lives. That just seems like it's a thing that's going around right now, and, I just want to make a public statement because that's very necessary, because I would never do anything like that, stay out of my emails.
Well, I mean, I know you wouldn't because my private investigator said that you haven't done that. So, which I also wouldn't do, by the way.
No,
I
you
mean,
would
it's
never.
just, whoa.
Because I know you are, Dan.
Yeah.
I mean, Jason.
Beards is like, are you serious? You serious?
Beard shows up at my window by himself. He doesn't hire anybody. He just peers in.
Beards just climbs windows, climbs trees to look through the windows. I'm my own private investigator. Not very private. I see you.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Cynthia, are you okay with Beards playing the returner with the amazing English? I was curious about that as Cynthia Frelund is our guest, NFL Network's analytics expert. Okay, good.
I love it. I own it. I own what I say. We're good.
Good, because we make fun of ourselves all the time, and we play things back all the time of when we mess up, as I just said, when we mess up talking.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. We are hanging out at T-Mobile Center. It is the Big 12 Media Days for the basketball side of the league. We will talk with Bill Self and Jerome Tang coming up in the noon hour after we hear from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Mick Shaffer, 1 o'clock. Right now, talking some NFL football with our NFL insider analytics expert from the NFL Network, Cynthia Frelund, joins us here in the Zone. Cynthia, how are you, ma'am?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I am doing just fine. Look, I acknowledge right out of the gates that, you do the preseason games with the Bills and the sideline and stuff like that, but not going to lie, there was a little bit of a, ooh, that hurt when the hashtag Bills Mafia went out. That one hurt just a little, Cynthia. I acknowledge up front, what goes into that, but there was just a little bit.
I mean, let's face it, first off, this is and Eagles fans will get mad at me for this, but these are the two best teams in the entire league right here. And I don't know if you saw before that, but on game day morning, I was a lone wolf picking the Chiefs. Yep. The entire rest of my crew picked the Bills. So I feel like I did a good job of balance because, my models picked the Chiefs. I chose them. I had to howl on TV. And, it was about, a couple seconds away from being correct. So you have to give credit where credit's due after, but you got to look at the whole story because the whole story shows I was on Chiefs early, and I even said it on this show last week.
Yep. No, you're right. I was going to say that at least you did pick the Chiefs earlier that day. You picked the Chiefs on this show when Josh was in last week talking with you. So that is in all fairness and to present the entire story there. So Cynthia Frelund is our guest. Let's talk about the game though. It was a really fun game. One of the things that it's been interesting and I don't know that I should say surprising, but the reaction around here from Chiefs fans has been pretty subdued after a loss. It's been kind of all right, now you know what the Bills look like. This could have happened, that could have happened. There were some injuries. Cool. Probably see them later on in the playoffs. It may be in Buffalo, but, what are you going to do? Those are the two best teams in the NFL, whereas it just felt like sky was falling and everybody wanted to scream and yell after the Colts loss. After this one, it was like, kind of so maybe I shouldn't be surprised because I do believe, NFL fans, by and large, get it, understand it. But it has been a little bit surprising, and I think it's a really even-keeled way of looking at that game, that it's unfortunate you lost, but, I mean, those are two really good teams, and one play here or there, the result could have been different.
Totally, and then you have to also remember, I mean, without look, hopefully Trent McDuffie will start to look great, and in January will be a difference maker too, but there's a lot to be excited about. There were some missing key pieces. You play Josh Allen, and you play that offense, and that defense, there's a lot of really important pieces that they literally brought Von Miller in to play the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. This is why they got him. So it's an interesting, such respect between two organizations to care that much about the outcomes of games with each other. That's awesome. And we're taking a step back as football fans, we're very lucky that this is the future of what's going on in the league. These two guys, all right, great. I'm in. This is fantastic. So I mean, look, it's not. I think it would probably felt different if it was a blowout, right? So mm-hmm. I think that if it had been somehow double-digit victory, et cetera, but it's as close as it could have come. I mean, without overtime, it's really crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was, you stop them instead of scoring a touchdown, they kick a field goal, Chiefs get the ball, maybe they go down and kick a field goal, and maybe it's 23-20 final, and we're saying, Chiefs made some mistakes, and the Bills are going, boy, the game was there for the taking, and what happened? Why didn't you come through? The conversations are totally different because we have a lot of focus on what didn't happen, things that fell short, the opportunities that were there that weren't taken advantage of, the execution that was lacking in certain spots, and I'm not sure if Buffalo is doing that as well, or they're just simply going, got past them. Yeah, mistakes were made, but you won the game. You got the W, and all of that.
I can assure you, they're. I mean, they have a bye this week, so they're looking at. They're lucky they have a little bit more time to deal with it, and Jordan Poyer has time to drive home. But other than that, no, I can assure you that they are looking at. There were a number of mistakes that they made that they wish they could have back too. There's so much respect. Like I told you, they got Von Miller specifically for the Chiefs. So there's ultimate respect, and they're definitely looking at this being like, we got. I'm sure they're not sitting there being like, we played an awesome game, we couldn't have played any better. They are very acutely aware of what they need to improve too.
No, I agree with you. I was meaning more towards the fans, their reaction. Here we're focusing so much on what didn't happen and the plays they didn't make, and not really focusing on, we haven't really talked much about the Juju Smith-Schuster long touchdown and what Patrick Mahomes did. No, we're talking about the screen pass he didn't hit. We're talking about Creed Humphrey drifting another yard and a half farther than he should have downfield, and MVS scores a touchdown on that. Those are the things we're discussing. As you analyze that game and come away from it, Cynthia, is there, we've talked about maybe the bigger picture overall of these two teams and how they match up, but is there something that you saw in the game as to why it resulted in Buffalo winning? Is it one team had Von Miller and the other team didn't? Is it running game was effective for one team and it wasn't for for the other? Is there anything there that you see and go, okay, well, this is what I take away from this game with this matchup this specific time?
I think the deep passing capabilities for Josh Allen against this secondary that's young and not as experienced as you'd like against Josh Allen maybe, but I mean, Josh Allen had a 158.3 passer rating. That's the best you can get. That's perfect on 15-plus air yard attempts, as well as on vertical routes, so goes, for example. And that's problematic because deep, big plays like that are kind of how games get won in the NFL. Nobody knows that more than Chiefs fans, right? So, I think that was probably the score quickly and the kind of catch them off guard and on their heels thing. That was probably the one thing that sort of tipped it a bit in the obviously in the tip the scales a bit. There wasn't a decent amount of pressure on Patrick Mahomes too, but Patrick is typically pretty fine with pressure. It's just you got to be able to have that one extra deep gash there to be able to get past both teams being so talented.
What do you make of the perfect rating then against the in the 15 plus? Is that 15 plus yards or 15 plus air yards on the pass?
Air yard attempts, all three touchdowns.
Okay, yeah.
He was 9 of 10 and 207 yards, so it wasn't like he did it three times, right? It was 9 of 10, 207 yards and three touchdowns off of 15 plus air yard attempts. So not even just 10 plus air yard attempts. We call those downfield passes. 15 is it's kind of the next increment before deep passes, which are 20 plus air yard attempts. So it's not intermediate because that's not really because remember air yards are different than yards after the catch yards. So it's ultimately how does you're getting it over the head of the defenders. It's not catch and run.
So what do you make of that then, that he was 9 of 10 for over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns on those passes of 15-plus air yards? Is that young secondary that, one-on-one, Josh Williams versus Gabe Davis, Josh Williams versus Stephon Diggs? Yeah, I'm going to guess who's going to win that one because also Josh Allen put it in a good spot. In a couple of those plays, Cynthia, Spags brought a blitz, and they didn't get there. So, you're kind of leaving yourself open.
The front and the back works together. It's never just one, right? The front and the back, they're hand in glove. So if the front could have gotten there a little bit better, then the back would have had a better chance. If the back could have blanketed and stayed with Gabe Davis and covered up Stephon Diggs a little bit more, then the front would have had more time. So it's kind of decisions and how they both work together. It's not necessarily, like just a bad matchup. And you know what? That matchup, like, he will keep getting better. I'm not like, it's just Josh Allen, like Patrick Mahomes, is super smart. So he's going to go to where he has the most favorable matchup, like just like any really top-tier quarterback would.
Visiting with Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert, and maybe that's where Trent McDuffie makes a difference. That maybe McDuffie's out there on Gabe Davis and on Stephon Diggs. Maybe McDuffie is the one that he brings on a blitz instead of L'Jarius Sneed, and so L'Jarius Sneed is then on Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. Maybe it's something as simple as that. But you're right, the improvement certainly will come along with that. One of the takeaways that has been going on around here is, over the summer we had wondered what the Chiefs were going to do in rushing the passer, putting pressure on the quarterback. And they've been able to put some pressure on the quarterback this year, so I'm not going to dismiss the things that they have done before the game against the Bills, because we watched a game wrecker in Von Miller, and we watched a Chiefs team that has a game wrecker in Chris Jones from the interior, and, he moved outside on defensive end as well. And so I'm just wondering, like, as they move forward, in your mind, do they have enough? If the one hand washes the other, the front helps out the back helps out the front. Do they have enough there on the front end of pressuring the quarterback enough with the personnel they have to help out that back end, so where it makes it less likely or less prevalent of Spagnuolo bringing a blitz and bringing as many people as he was doing against the Bills at times?
I think when they're fully healthy, they have enough. I'm not, look, like, the one thing that I've noticed about Spagnuolo defenses, since I've been tracking Spagnuolo defenses since well before he was at the Chiefs, is they get better with time. So there's a reason why you see, I think of like, playoff games in January, where you see a totally different pressure structure. That's easy for me to say. Pressure structure, and strategy, because you have to go from facing a team like the Titans one week to facing a team like the Bills the next week, right? So completely different styles of offense, and you see really smart adaptations and very quickly. But it feels like in beginnings of seasons, you don't see that. It's played together and continuity there. It makes a lot of sense, but perhaps part of the others is like he takes different risks. He makes different risk profiles and risk decisions, and I think that was what he made based on his personnel. And perhaps if he had to do it all over again, maybe they would make a different risk profile and make some different I just think everyone grows and gets better, but Spags kind of, to me, I measure a lot of defensive coordinators by their ability to adjust and adapt to the situations that are presenting themselves. And Spags does a great job of that, and he does it even better as the season goes on. So I'm not that worried, especially when you're getting Trent McDuffie back. It's just, again, there's a lot to take away from this game, but most of it is that these are great teams, and if you played that game 10 times, I believe it would be 5-1, 5 to the other.
Yeah, and I can't disagree with that at all. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert, is our guest. So these numbers I got from Craig Stout, our friend over at KC Sports Network, and he does a great job covering the Chiefs' defense and breaking it down. That's sort of his passion, is the defensive side of the football. And he writes here, Cynthia, that says, over the past 2 weeks, the Chiefs' defense has seen an increase in heavy personnel compared to the league average. Chiefs' defense has seen around 27% of their snaps in heavy personnel, but there has been a serious uptick over the past 2 weeks. Offenses lining up in 21 or 12 or even heavier on 42% of the snaps. That's the Raiders and the Bills. The uptick has been prevalent because the Chiefs' defense has given up nearly 1.25 yards per play more out of that base defense, and nearly 2.8 yards specifically per play extra against the pass out of that base defense. Is this something then, the Raiders, the Bills, is it something maybe that's what they do already, and they maybe just did it a little bit more to emphasize something that the Chiefs were lacking against the Raiders that maybe the Bills saw on film? Or is this something moving forward that teams will look at and go, okay, they clearly have an issue with this, so let's attack it, and maybe 21 and 12 and heavier personnel might be something Chiefs fans should get used to against this Chiefs defense?
But I think, so what are the, I guess, to me, like, it's like, well, what are the Bills and the Raiders have in common? I laugh just because it seems like a ridiculous question.
They both won at least one game this year?
But look, like, I mean, I think that teams are, so first off, teams are always going to give their best to the Chiefs. So if they think that they've got any sort of edge, if they're seeing that we're in a copycat league, whether or not it makes sense, they're gonna do it. So you'll probably see it until it stops working, if that makes sense, right? So it's very, very. There you go. There's some logic for you. But I look to see what they're trying to do there, and it's basically they're just trying to get the ball in the hands of the best players, right? Like you've got Devontae Adams, pretty good. Like that's the guy who you got to scheme for. If you have a heavier set there, Devontae's going to win one-on-one balls against a secondary that's young and less experienced. Devontae's, one of, if not the best receiver in the league. So let's just try to figure that one out a little bit. And then Josh Jacobs was working for them, so keep doing it because there wasn't a solution. Like they tried it a couple of times and it worked. And Josh McDaniel wants to run that ball. He wants to run the air out of the ball. So, sometimes it's as simple as like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And a couple of things that they tried worked, and that's some Patriot tricks that are, up against the Chiefs. Okay, got it. So it works. And then I would imagine when it comes to the Bills, like, Josh is this like rushing threat all of the time. And, you've got Josh as a rushing threat. You've got Devin Singletary. They're using him more. He had been more effective in the games leading up. And also their receivers can separate pretty well. So that was, I think, more of a strategic, probably they're like, hey, it kind of worked for the Raiders last week. Like maybe we can do some things here because we can get that free release for Steph or for Gabe, like, and see if it works. Right. So I don't think, sure, it's working now, but I don't think it'll work for very long, if that makes sense. Right. It works until it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, really stupid,
it's great. Yeah. You haven't, until you do it, you haven't done it. It works until it doesn't work. And then you got to figure it out. And you know what? Switching to the Chiefs offense versus defenses, the cover two, the shell last year was working until it didn't. And then late in the season, the Chiefs figured out and they were torching defenses that were running that. And so they got an idea of what they were doing. Which brings me to the next question I have for you, Cynthia, and that is part of the conversation this week has been, okay, they scored 20 points. There's no Tyreek Hill. Does Tyreek Hill do something different in that Bills game that these receivers did not do? The Chiefs are seeing a very, very large increase in man defense against them compared to what we've seen, certainly last year and things like that. Is that, Cynthia, as easy as there's no Tyreek Hill, so teams are changing up the way that they're playing defense against the Chiefs? They're going back to man-to-man because they don't think these wide receivers can win. Is part of it that, okay, well, we're running the two deep or the shell, and we're seeing the Chiefs are countering with this, and they're starting to win more, and it's getting beat because of this and this, so now we need to then adjust to the adjustment and try to figure something else out. What do you make of what the defenses are doing this year and how much man-to-man coverage they are running against the Chiefs?
I think now that – I guess my counter to, like, the would Tyreek blah, blah, blah was, like, Juju Smith-Schuster played really well. That deep touchdown, or that long touchdown, rather, was a testament to that. I think they probably are playing man because they don't know – it's a little easier when you play man to, like, figure out who you're going to put on Travis Kelce, because I think teams are recognizing how much more they're moving Travis around the formation. So it's you got to, like, figure that one out even more than you always had to figure it out. But now you have to, like, double, triple down on figuring out because he's not lining up in the places that a lot of teams have all of the normal amount of film on him on. So I think it's more of a function of, all right, maybe they're not as worried about kind of the Tyreek Hill situation as they were before. But I also think it's like they don't know, and a lot of these guys have more experience playing man. You remember, like in college, they play a lot more man. So if you've got younger people, like it's easier for them to know what they know, right? So I think it's kind of half of one, half of the other.
Visiting with Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network. One more quick one, and then I'll get your thoughts on the 49ers game and a prediction. The name Odell Beckham Jr. has been talked about the last couple of days because of the contract restructure for Travis Kelce. Christian McCaffrey's been talked about overall in the league because of Robbie Anderson being traded and the quote-unquote thought of a fire sale there in Carolina. Brian Burns' name has been brought up. Does Odell Beckham Jr. make a big enough difference on this team to go and bring him in? Kelce would like that. He talked about it on his podcast. He would love to see Odell Beckham Jr. in a Chiefs uniform. If he's on the Chiefs, how much better would he make their offense?
Well, I mean, look, I'm always going to start with if he's fully healthy, Odell is an awesome catch and run receiver. But like I saw reports, I don't know how these things like go, right? Like I'm not a doctor. I thought he said November, like not that long ago. And I'm like, okay, well that's coming up. We're, mid-October now. So is he running? Like what's going on? And it feels like it's kind of this more like hype than it is. I haven't even seen the workout videos yet. So, but like I guess at the end of the day, like I do think he would be a really nice addition to a team that is already very, very, very strong. I guess I just would have to. I'm just like worried that ACL happened like 5 minutes ago. Is he back to form or is he not okay? Like that's important. Like these are really important parts of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that would be my only question. So, but I do think it would really put him over the top. But again, only if he's fully healthy.
Would Christian McCaffrey put the Bills, Chiefs over the top if a team like that were to acquire his skills?
I mean, the thing about Christian McCaffrey that's so interesting to me always is that, like, you see him have these like 6 game runs, and he looks healthy and great, and then like it's a hamstring, and then it just feels like there's I don't know, for what I believe, at least what they're putting out there for the the amount you have to acquire him for, it doesn't feel like you get the good return on investment because it just, if they're saying, I mean, look, obviously they're going to put out there, we need multiple first round picks and your firstborn daughter and whatever, right? Like, but I don't know if they'll get that. So it would really depend on the return on investment because there's always going to be something weird that happens. You're going to need to bring in an extra linebacker or something else happens. So, like, what are you then taking away from to be able to get him? And I just worry about, I just haven't seen him be fully healthy for long enough for me to, like, have faith in it yet. And I know he's done that this season so far, so I hope he proves me wrong, but it just feels like for that haul, you just feel a little bit better if it was less injury.
And Clark Hunt has already said that they're not going to trade that first-round draft pick because they're hosting the draft next year, so they're not trading that. And Patrick and Brittany are on record that they're not trading Sterling for any help on offense. So it wouldn't work out either way.
No, not happening.
The compensation does not work, Cynthia. All right, what do you think of the 49ers? This matchup coming up this weekend, 500 team versus the Chiefs at 4-2. What do you make of this 49ers team?
When they're healthy versus when they're not, completely different teams. I think I'm going to be watching to see defending the intermediate pass using play action because that's when Jimmy Garoppolo is going well, that's what his thing is, right? So I'm going to be just watching that one pretty closely because that's an area that I think is going to be a good point of learning and growth for this Chiefs defense, and also defending the outside zone runs that we're likely to see from Kyle Shanahan just because that's his thing. So I kind of am looking to see how stylistically, the change going from week 1 not week 1, I guess week 6, right, to week 7. So going from 1 week to the next where there's a completely different style of offense, how the defense adapts. So that's kind of where I'm looking. And also it's hard to say what the defensive front's going to look like because pretty much no one played last game. So it's a completely different look for the 49ers from week 1 to this one if more of them play. But again, are they healthy? What's going on? I don't have any information on that one.
Do you have a score? And I know that the simulation might change if, let's say, you add in Bosa or Trent Williams all of a sudden plays. But is there a score right now with the information that we have that is part of the simulation?
Yeah. So given what we know right now, I think I have a touchdown win for the Chiefs. I will say Bosa would make a bit of a difference, not like a who wins difference, but that it could shift the point differential. And so with Trent Williams a little bit, Bosa, Joey and Nick, if they're going to play again, that would be really, that's always a problem. But Nick Bosa playing in this game would be a nice little add for the Niners.
All right, we'll see.
And
what
the
ends
rest
up
of their
happening.
front too,
Yeah, absolutely. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. Cynthia, thank you so much for the time. As always, enjoy the football, and we will talk next week.
Sounds good. Have a great week.
Absolutely, you too. There's Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert, joining us here on a Wednesday at 11 o'clock. Get a chance to talk to her each and every Wednesday. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We got a segment coming up next between Cynthia and then hearing from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes around 11:45 or so. Bill Self, Jerome Tang coming up in the noon hour. Mick Shaffer as well. We're hanging out at the T-Mobile Center. Big 12 basketball media days going on right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB on a Wednesday.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You know what makes me nervous about today's show?
Where do we begin?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco, Beards. We had up until 2 o'clock. Thank you to Cynthia Frelund joining us and talking some NFL football. We'll hear from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes coming up in the next segment. And then in the noon hour, going to be catching up with Bill Self and also Jerome Tang, head coach of K-State. So we will do that coming up in the noon hour. I want to hear from Travis Kelce. He weighed in for a few minutes in the podcast about the loss to the Bills and what the takeaway was there. But I do want to get to this first. Last night came the flood. Not since the days of Noah has such a rainfall come down from the heavens. Was it God punishing the Yankees for their excesses? After all, is he not the ultimate judge? Ron Darling. 1-0 pitch was outside, Bob. Bob Costas. We call it a rain delay, but it can be far more than that. The rain can cleanse and wash away dirt, be it physical, spiritual, or mental. Water brings life and a new beginning for us all, if we're willing to take that chance. Ron Darling. I brought an umbrella.
I'm excited for us to be in the same building as this bit continues on, because I really feel like we could improv our way through a handful of these for some really good situations. Maybe just like future like real life news items going forward. You know, like I am ready to be improv Bob Costas or improv Ron Darling whenever needed.
Either way. The Bob Costas, the game has been delayed, just like so many have delayed their lives in hopes of finding something better rather than embracing what they have, holding out for that last sliver of hope that eludes us all only to die sad and alone. Ron Darling. Clase's warming up in the pen. Bob Costas.
Whoa!
Uh-oh. Yes.
Oh, no.
What is it? What is it before
Adam
we...
Schefter.
Ooh, this is new.
Baker Mayfield's career is over. Sam Darnold is back from IR.
Now, is that quoted verbatim or
No,
Okay.
I did my own editorializing there.
Okay. So Schefter says that that Baker Mayfield's career is over. You're reporting that Sam Darnold's off IR.
Yes, that's correct.
That makes sense. Those are the only two things that would match up. If his career is over, it's only because Sam Darnold is on IR. Who else would end his career other than Sam Darnold?
This is low-key a pretty big loss for me because it's only going to rejuvenate the conversation about if I do, in fact, look kind of like Sam Darnold. And I think the longer people forget about him, the further away from that conversation I get to be.
Welcome to the Division Series. The skies open up in New York, as it did for the Brave Souls fighting behind George Washington in 1776. One has to wonder if Aaron Judge can be that kind of leader tonight. Ron Darling. Yankees defending against the bunt. Let's hear from Travis Kelce on his podcast, weighing in a few minutes here, that he talks about the loss to the Bills, the takeaway, what happened, etc.
This one stings because of all the hype, and you always want to play your best against the best, and it stings because we didn't play our best. We handed it to them in a sense. Obviously, they're a great team. I don't want to say that's not knocking them at all, but when I look at the film, I'm seeing a lot of things that we could have done to help ourselves. Instead, we were hurting ourselves in a few different facets of the game, and it's just you just got to fix them. You got to be your worst critic. You got to go into the film room, and you have to not point fingers at any direction, but right at yourself, and just keep hacking away at it. We were banged up in the secondary. Offensively, we didn't move the ball early in the game as much as we wanted to. A few red zone opportunities came out empty-handed. Got to be able to capitalize, even if it is 3 points. I was talking about touchdowns. Even if it is 3 points, find a way to get points on the board early. And then just finishing the game like we know how, man. And it was just we knew we were going to be in a bar fight with those guys. Von Miller, a guy that I got tremendous respect for, had himself a day. We knew that was the reason why they picked him up. was to be able to get to Pat Mahomes, and we got to do a better job as a team. Putting him one-on-one with any tackle is probably a favorable matchup for Von.
I'm sure he'll take that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like doing things that can help slow him down. Maybe get the run game going more. Things like that to just kind of make him have to think about another thing.
Yeah. Just don't let him pin his ears back.
Exactly. And it's and that was for the entire defense. We came out thinking they were going to run a lot of shell like they have in years past, and this year they went a little bit more man robber, and what that does is it sometimes makes Pat hold on to the ball while we're en route trying to get open. Yeah. And we got to be able to win our one-on-one matchups, and that's where that accountability, looking myself in the mirror and saying you got to be there for that guy 1-5 back there and get open early, no matter what. No matter if they're holding you, they can't hold me. Try and find ways to even when it's not a favorable matchup. I'm getting bracketed or something like that. Find a way. Just keep being creative and accountable in that aspect. And it's this one would be a huge learning experience. Like I said, we were a little banged up. We had a lot of young guys take strides. I think there were a few plays that a few of our young corners could have just stuck their tail between their legs and just kind of kept it moving. No, they bowed up and actually played their tails off for the rest of the game, and that was great to see. So we have new faces, a lot of young players, and a big game like that is a huge learning experience, and it's a big confidence booster when you look at it on the film and you see, where you could have been more accountable, and that's for sure.
There's a lot of meat on the bone with that, and a lot of different ways we can go, and I want to examine that in about 15 different areas. We don't have time to do it now, but I wanted to at least have the audio out there to hear it, of his breakdown, so that people, and we'll certainly play it again when we talk about it a little bit more. We're going to hear from the Chiefs at the podium with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, but man, there was a lot to take away there from the assessment and what they saw, what the Bills did, what the adjustment now can be, will be, and very critical overall of what they did, what they should have done, what they could have done, and the areas they came up short. It's a pretty honest assessment. A lot of stuff there from Travis Kelce, Josh.
Yeah, and like you said, we'll to go item by item to unpack everything that I have like little dash marks by would take longer than we'll be able to have before the pressers. But the idea of, hey, there are just a lot of things the Chiefs could have realistically done to help themselves that they just ended up not making those plays, or even like on that touchdown he talks about, the Bills defender makes the play. And whenever you have a matchup between two teams, even as he said, inferring something about the Colts, two teams that you see as peers, losing that game does ultimately come down to a few plays. Some of the deeper stuff there about the offense I think is long-term interesting, but the Chiefs are a really good team that lost to another really good team that made more really good plays in one stretch of 60 minutes of football. It's kind of simple in a very complex sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got 7 dashes with notes next to it from just that clip. So, yes.
I also have 7. That'll be fun to compare notes on.
Compare and contrast. Were you copying? Come on, man. Eyes on your own paper.
I have a camera over your shoulder.
We need a proctor over here to make sure that this guy's not doing what he's not.
I mean, I've never hired a private investigator to put a camera over your shoulder is what I meant to say. And I'm not selling the team.
I think it might be Tucker. He's sitting right next to me right now, and he's on his computer. He might be taking notes of everything I'm writing and sending it to you.
Wow.
He might be the private investigator you hired. I'm on to you, dude.
Okay, hold on a second. Now I'm thinking I could get some information.
Mm-hmm. Hiring one of our own, one of a fellow Northwest Missouri State Bearcat to follow and track me just to get the inside scoop. Not cool, man.
Didn't even know he was
not
out
cool.
there.
At least hire a Pitt State gorilla next time, okay? I'd have more respect for you.
Well, I don't want it to be a blowout.
We'll hear from Andy Reid. We'll hear from Patrick Mahomes coming up next here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I was only thinking about myself.
And I was only thinking about myself. And welcome to The Zone, everybody, here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco, Beards. We'll hear from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes when they get up to the podium. We will send it out there and hear what the head coach has to say, along with looking forward to the challenge of facing off against the 49ers. We know he is doing that. But also hear from Patrick Mahomes, curious as to his assessment from that Bills game watching the film because, again, 3.5 minutes of Travis Kelce giving his synopsis and analysis and breakdown of what he saw from the film and how many spots that there was clearly a frustrating, like after the Colts loss, it was a frustrating sounding Kelce, but almost like a pissed off because how in the world do you lose to that team? Come on. This one seems like a frustrating that you're going up against a team that's your peer. You can't make those mistakes that were made, and it's frustrating because we know we didn't just give one away because that'll take too much away from the Bills. But man, we probably should have won that one. And I think it's a different level of frustration than just being mad about the Colts game and going, yeah, we could have done some things different. But come on, man, you don't lose to that team.
The audio that we wanted to play from that show post-Colts game was Travis Kelce just yelling one very naughty word.
That's right.
That was the thing that we couldn't really figure out how to truly bring that to life on radio because it would have been an FCC violation. This week it was 3.5 minutes of Travis Kelce giving some actual evaluation.
Here's Andy Reid doing that as well.
Although he's doing better, we're just going to hold him out. And then Tooney fits into that same category with the ankle sprain. So he won't practice today. We're just monitoring those two guys. And then Fenton won't practice with the hamstring. McDuffie will practice, and we'll just see how he does as we go. And we look forward to the challenge of playing the 49ers. Good football team, very talented, and very well coached. So with that, time's yours.
Coach, I asked you a couple weeks ago about Blake Bell and Lucas Niang's status. As you approach the bye, are these two candidates that you're looking maybe after the bye for them to come back?
Most likely it'll be after the bye, but somewhere after the bye. But they are getting better. We just have to see how it goes. Yeah.
Andy, Brian Cook back to practice today?
Yes.
Okay. Willie Gay, what are your expectations for him this week? Do you expect he'll be up on Sunday?
I'm going to see how things go here this week. We'll see. We'll just see how it goes. See where he's at. You're all right.
Sorry, Andy. Is Cook out of the concussion protocol, or is he still in it?
Yeah, I think this is the part he has to go through a practice, I believe. Yeah. Rick's got all that.
Andy, when you play San Francisco, obviously, at least for us, turns out never is the last time you face these guys. The roster's turned over. I understand you still got Patrick and Travis, but the roster's turned over quite a bit over the last 3 years. Do you develop an appreciation for still being where you guys are, competing for what you're competing for, despite that turnover in 3 years?
Yeah, listen, I always give credit to Brett on that stuff. He deals with it, and his guys deal with it. And you guys have got to know Brett now, so you know the energy level and the amount of time that he puts into this thing and bringing us good players to coach. And so we appreciate that. It gives us an opportunity. Now we've got to coach guys up, and guys have to play. And we're early in the season. We got to keep growing together. But we appreciate the talent that we've been given. Yeah, for sure.
Can you speak to just the difficulty of maintaining that once you win something? I mean, obviously, I know Patrick helps a lot, but there's teams out there with good quarterbacks that don't compete every year.
There's a good nucleus, I guess, of a couple guys, if that's considered a nucleus, that have been here and kind of get it, and they have a voice in the locker room. And then there's some veteran players that we brought in that go, yeah, you know what, that's the way it needs to be, So they bought in, and again, I appreciate that part because that's not always that way. But we've been blessed to have some good guys here that understand the hard work and all those things pay off for you down the road.
Andy, you're going up against D'Amico Ryans, 49ers defensive coordinator. He played on you for a year, I believe.
Yeah.
Just, what were your impressions of him as a player and then now as him as a coach?
A phenomenal person and absolutely brilliant as a player. Just understanding the game, and you're seeing that now as a coach. So I'm very happy for him. He's one of those guys you pull for, unless you're playing him, but you pull for him.
Coach, I think it was after the Raider game, Pat said that there were some things, they were doing different things, and you reached back for something from a couple of games, right? And everybody was able to digest it. How often, do you find that that happens? And how important is it to have, the guys that can, have that memory bank and
Sure.
go back and
Yeah. So probably come back to Sam's question. With the record that we have, we seem to get different looks than maybe what the team has shown traditionally, and so we've seen that for the last couple of years now. And you have to be able to be a little flexible and on your feet there to maneuver around it. So. And again, we're lucky that we have guys that can retain. We have a quarterback that gets it, and so we're able to pull a couple things here and there if needed. And our coaches have good retention there to help.
how far back can you go? I mean, you ever?
And normally, what you do is it's things that maybe you've worked on in camp, but then you put on the back burner. Or you might use 3 or 4 weeks down the season. Potentially there's something that you had the year before you might sneak out, but normally it's from that whole grouping of plays that you put in camp. It's like a reservoir, and you kind of draw from that as you go through the year. Well, you might have to draw a little sooner than you might think. So you can pull those out. So it isn't 10 years ago, it might be the year before or potentially training camp.
To that point, Andy, you guys have been through this enough where, to your point, seeing more single man coverage, how much can that be beneficial versus doing it in training camp or maybe seeing it in spots versus a team being more deliberate against your man coverage this early in the season?
Yeah, the thing we've seen is a mix, a huge mix. So, and that's kind of the flavor of the league right now, I think. And then they'll pick a little bit more of something percentage-wise to play against you. So man has been something that we've seen. We were lucky that we saw it in training camp with our own defense, and so we've worked the routes, most of the routes against it. Then it's just a matter of trying to defeat the guy that's covering you. But it's not a shot. Right now, most of the coverages that we're getting, we've seen because these teams are doing these things. It's a variety pack.
Coach, it seems like early in games you guys are being deliberate about trying to establish the run. With 3 talented backs, how are you determining who goes in when? Is that up to Greg, or is it just a combination of things?
Yeah, so we've got trust in all of them, and they've all got kind of their plays and times that we try to use them. It just depends on the game. So this game might be different than the last game, but we try to give them as close to equal opportunity as we can. I know Pacheco came a little short this last game. He had 10 reps, I think it was.
Andy, going back to Sam's question, the last time you played San Francisco, do you have a different appreciation for Wasp now, 3 years down the line, kind of the changing moment it was for this organization?
Yeah, that play got a lot of publicity, I know. So I'm sure they've worked on it, but we don't run anymore, so it's all right.
Couple more guys. Coach, with the run game, the physicality part of it. I mean, I know you obviously want to gain yards, and Eric comes in and talks about every play, being designed to score a touchdown. But is it still important to the game to be physical, to, for lack of a better term, land the body blows, maybe beat the defense up a little bit so that you got an extra step in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, no, I think you can do that in the run game and the pass game. That's and to think different than that as a lineman is a mistake. So normally in a normal pass rush, there's an uncovered lineman, and so you're just not standing there picking your nose. You're working, and you're letting people know that you're around, right? And then you need to be physical in the run game likewise, and finish your blocks. But that part's still part of this game, and those guys are very important guys to set a certain tempo.
Andy, when you look at the 49ers defense, what unique characteristics do they have that's kind of made them as good as they are?
Yeah, that front is special, and their linebackers are special. Their back end, when they're healthy, they've got good players, and then they've brought in some guys that are new, that are playing fast. So I think D'Amico's done a nice job of teaching the basics to these guys so they can play fast. And that's the thing that jumps out at you. You expect the new guys to be a little bit hesitant coming in, but they're flying around and making plays. So, yeah.
Last two. Andy, I want you to go back and jog your memory a little bit to San Francisco State University, playing under Vic Rowan, his statues out there, and then being with Mike Holmgren. Just what did that time mean to you, and how much it means as you reflect back on your time at San Francisco?
Yeah, it was a great growing time. Vic Rowan was a great teacher of coaches, and he had this huge library of playbooks in the office, and from every school. You call up a coach and go, "Hey, can I get your playbook?" And guys would send them their playbook. So it was a beautiful library. And so you had all this stuff that you could look at and dive into. And then he was great about teaching you, sharing with you his knowledge. So I appreciate it.
Last one, Nate. The last 2 weeks, Andy, you guys have given Sky Moore a little bit more snaps in the offense. Just what have you seen in those last 2 games, and where do you see it maybe going next for Sky?
Yeah, listen, I think he's going to continue to grow through the season. I think the more he plays, the better he's going to get, and or the more familiar become, faster he'll play, all those things that take place with young guys. So we're trying to, we give him a little bit more every week, and he's been doing fine with it. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Andy Reid's press conference is brought to you by Robert Brogdon Buick GMC and Robert Brogdon's Olathe Kia. Robert Brogdon Buick GMC and Robert Brogdon's Olathe Kia. Visit BrogdonAutomotive.com. And by Andy's Frozen Custard. Andy's Frozen Custard. Enjoy the world's finest frozen custard at Andy's, made fresh every hour. Andy and Andy's, a winning combination.
All right, there's Andy Reid's press conference. You're listening to Sports Radio 810 WHB Kansas City. Here's Patrick Mahomes.
What's the best way to do that as you get ready for a new team?
I think you just have to come to work. We have a heck of a challenge this week against the 49ers. One of not the best defense in the league. So as an offense, we have to know that we're going to have to take advantage of every day. We're going to have to practice great, watch film great, and so we put ourselves in the best position to have some success on the field.
You're facing top defenses, it seems like every week. Just how much of a challenge has it been for you guys, and what have you learned about yourself facing these top defenses?
Yeah, I mean, it's a heck of a challenge to go up against the best, and that's what you want to do. You want to prepare yourself to be in those situations towards the end of the season and hopefully in the playoffs. And so for us, we just have to accept it every week to know that we're going to play the best teams week in and week out because of the past success that we've had. So it's been a great challenge for us, and I think the guys have responded well.
How often are you and Andy feeling like you're seeing some unscattered looks, and is there a way to prepare for that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think over the last few years we've seen it where defenses have played us a little differently than they've played everybody else. But you have to come up with a game plan for it. I think we do a good job of adjusting on the fly, making quick adjustments throughout the game so that we can go out there and have success.
There was a time in the 2019 season, Patrick, likely around the same time where you saw teams start playing more man coverage, and then so you guys sort of figured that out. What do you remember from that time and that season that obviously helped you win the Super Bowl, and how might that be applicable or somewhat different with this group of receivers facing man coverage?
Yeah, I think it's just defenses are throwing us different pitches. I mean, they know that last year was kind of more shell. and zone coverages, and they had some success with that. Then we kind of started beating that, and they went back to the man coverages again now, and they're doing a good job of trying to mix and match it, where they're not going to let us get the same coverage every in the same situation every time. They're going to keep changing it, and so for us, it's about having good versatile plays, and then me getting to the right checks and getting to the right read and the progression whenever the opportunity presents itself.
Patrick, success in this league is obviously pretty fleeting. At what point after last time when you faced the 49ers won the Super Bowl, did you start thinking about trying making that an annual thing to at least compete at that level?
I mean, I've always wanted to try to compete for Super Bowls, and then when you win one, you want to get back because you know how that felt, and now I've known how it feels to lose too, so I obviously want to get back. I mean, even looking back on that game and that team, still a great football team. That's a lot of it. That team is still there, and they've stayed together, and they've gotten better and better. And so I understand it's going to be a challenge because I've played against them before and know how many great players they have on that defense.
Do you appreciate the difficulty of it in the moment when you win? Because obviously when you win, you've accomplished the goal. Or does it take? I mean, you mentioned losing the Super Bowl to really appreciate just how difficult it is.
Yeah, I think I would appreciate it more now than I did back when I was young. That and winning the MVP early in my career, I think I just kind of thought that's just what you did. You went out there, played football, coached for Coach Reid, and you win the MVP and you win Super Bowls. But now I see with the grind and being in there every single day and not succeeding and not winning the Super Bowl, I think if I have the chance to go out there and win another one, I think I'll appreciate it even more.
Hey, Patrick, Wasp was the huge play in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Andy just joked that you guys don't run it anymore, but with teams hyper aware of it now, I mean, is it tougher to have that? Do you have to run variations? I guess what is with that play now, I guess?
Yeah, when you have a top offense in the league, I mean, teams are going to study you in the offseason. They're going to see what you do because it goes around the league too. I mean, offenses steal from each other and run some of the same plays. And so you see that defenses have accounted for some of the stuff that we've done. So how are we going to combat that? How are we going to go out there and make plays that go off of it to get other guys open? And that's something that's a challenge every day, and we try to continue to do every week. And we know that we're going to continue to evolve if we want to be a top offense in this league.
Patrick, Matt Milano kind of spied you a lot, especially in the second half. And, are you seeing more of that? And is it important to get ahead of the chains to make that a little more difficult? And it seems to be something like long down and distance. That's something they like to do to keep you in check.
Yeah, and I mean, most teams do. It's kind of like the pattern rush that we even do it on our defense. And so I've seen it a lot. Especially with mobile quarterbacks, they like to have someone there in case the pocket does kind of break down. And I just have to be better at working from within the pocket. And then when I do scramble, know there's going to be a guy there. So it's something that I'm obviously aware of. And like you said, it's usually a third and long type pressure. So I just have to make sure I can continue to be even better working within the pocket to make those throws downfield.
How much does the throw to Michael Burton last week, how much does that stay with you, given, I don't know if it was audible to that play or if there was sort of a pre-snap adjustment that you had to make, but how much does that stick with you knowing how much there was probably an opportunity there?
Yeah, I mean, whenever you check to a play and, I mean, you get to the right play in the right time with the pressure coming and then you miss the guy, I mean, it definitely hurts, especially against a team like that. And if that's me having to throw it higher or whatever it is to find that window to make that throw, I mean, that could have been a big point in the game. You could have scored a touchdown. Burt's pretty good in the open space. And so just trying to find ways to not let those little plays within the game be missed, because those are the plays that really change the outcome of the game.
You mentioned pitches for the defense and then how they throw things on the fly at you and how you're able to adjust, especially when they rush 3 and they drop 8. How have you been able to kind of over years just get better at trying to attack the defense?
Yeah, I mean, it's something I've seen since college. So, I mean, it's a down and distance thing like we were talking about where it's third and long. They want to get guys in coverage, and they also want to have someone there for all my scramble plays and stuff like that. So just continue to stay firm in the pocket, have good pocket presence, and trusting the receivers and the tight ends and running backs to get open downfield. Even if it takes a tick longer, I have to trust that the pocket's gonna be firm.
The whole unfair piece of the play, but how important is it to be where Nick Bosa is at all times in this game?
Very important. I mean, that dude is a monster out there. I mean, he does everything well. But obviously extremely good at rushing the passer with power, with speed. So it's someone you have to account for on every single snap.
Do you think it's the bye week looming over on the other side? But I know generally you guys will come in here and say you don't even know who's next. I think everybody knows when the bye week's coming this season. Do you worry about guys being focused, or is it make it easier to focus because you know you got a break coming up?
Yeah, I mean, guys better be focused. I mean, after losing the game and then turning on the film and watching this opponent we're about to play, guys better be locked in, because if we don't play our best football, we're not going to win. So guys will be locked in and ready to go.
When you're talking about defenses mixing up looks against your man zone, how do you feel like your recognition has grown over the years as far as being able to pick those up and identify those clues pre-snap?
Yeah, I mean, we do a great job of motioning and stuff like that. And even when defenses give me the false man zone IDs and stuff like that, you get a good feel by the alignment of the DBs or how the linebackers their eyes are in the backfield. I mean, there's little tells you can get from every defense. And I think I've done a great job of that. But now it's just about getting through your progression and getting to the right guy. That's something that I think I could have been better than I was last week. And I've been better this season, but as the season goes on, I want to stay on top of that.
Yeah, Patrick, for you, from your experiences, what's the key for a quarterback to be able to get into rhythm and stay in rhythm in the passing game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it helps when you start off fast early, and you can kind of get that rhythm set. But when you don't, how can you find easy completions? How can you kind of limit what you're seeing on the field and just get to the easy completion and move the chains? I think that's something that I try to really stay on top of as the game goes on. I mean, I think we've seen we haven't been as good in the second half, I feel like, at the end of games, and so we got to be better at getting those easy completions in those situations so that we can get the chains going and get in the rhythm.
Okay, thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
Patrick Mahomes press conference, brought to you by Xfinity Sports Zone. Xfinity Sports Zone, the ultimate sports hub experience, only from Xfinity. By Premier Volvo Cars of Overland Park, the only Volvo dealership in Kansas City, where luxury and safety meet. Premier Volvo Cars of Overland Park at 78th and Metcalf, or PremierVolvoCarsOverlandPark.com. And by Westlake Ace Hardware. Visit your local Westlake Ace Hardware today. Online at westlakehardware.com. Westlake Ace Hardware. Small projects, big know-how. Ask away.
All right, there's Patrick Mahomes. There's Andy Reid at the podium. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We're hanging out at Big 12 Basketball Media Days. We'll talk with Bill Self and Jerome Tang coming up on the other side of the break. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. You're in the zone with Jason Anderson.
He's a good guy to hang out with. He's a good guy to work with. He's a good guy to confide in. He's got the characteristics of what you would hope that your best friend or a brother would have. And he's tough.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I've always appreciated those comments from KU basketball head coach Bill Self. It was very nice of him to say specifically about me. He wasn't talking about anybody else but me in that. He sits down with us right now. Bill Self joining us here in the zone. Bill, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How's everybody at 8:10?
Good. Good. I mean, basketball season getting ready to start. Football's been pretty good.
You recovered from your event this
Have
summer?
you?
Well, yeah, it was great. Chad and everybody did a great job. I was happy to be a very small part of that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a good time. I think those that put on the event had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was good, and it was actually a open bar, so that was great for everybody in attendance.
It's Chad. What did you expect? Gurley loved it. That's why Gurley showed up.
Yeah,
it was an open bar. He
Yeah.
said he would definitely be there. What have the past 6 months been like for you since national championship number 2?
It's been fun. I'd say the first month or so was probably the feet don't touch the ground, and so you're probably getting slapped on the back a lot, and good job and that kind of stuff, and then you kind of have to turn the page, and even though I think from a personal standpoint, I think our staff did probably a decent job of turning the page, but it's officially turned now after late night. Late night was the last, and I made that point. Hey, let's celebrate it one last time, but it's over after this. And so I don't want to talk about what happened in the past, and I don't want our players to think about that they did something special. And certainly the majority of our guys on our team had absolutely nothing to do with that particular game on whether we won or not. I mean, there were only two. And that would be Juan and Jalen. But there's a lot of other guys, the K.J. Adams and the Joseph Yesifus and Bobby Pettifords, that were a part of it, Zach Clemens, that really didn't get a chance to show what they were capable of doing. And now the roles have changed, and let's see what those kids are made of. And then we have a pretty decent recruiting class on campus. And so I like our guys. We're just young. I mean, the things that, that we are spending time on now were things that we'd spend 15 minutes on last year, and then they're reminders, and you move on to the next thing. Well, now those 15 minutes become 2-hour things, and it's a little bit more difficult to get everything in. We're a little bit behind right now.
No, that's interesting. I want to touch on real quick the turning the page aspect. Is that something from 2008 to 2009? You win that one, and having to go through that for the first time. Do you draw from that?
Yeah,
of what worked, what didn't work this to go around?
I don't know that anything has worked. I guess time will tell. But in 2008, I remember calling our staff in the summer and said, "Hey guys, because the reality is you have speaking opportunities. You got so many things going on, and all anybody wants to talk about is the past." And I remember telling my staff that, "Hey guys, I'm serious. I don't think we've done anything to get better. I mean, what have we really done? I mean, all we've been doing is just doing things that people ask us to do, but we're not grinding. We're not doing anything to get better." And I remember J.D. Mayo is a longtime coach at Skyline in Dallas. This is where Marcus Garrett went to high school. He didn't play for J.D., but this is before there. And we're recruiting a kid down there. And Georgia Tech had just played in the national championship game. And the next day, Paul Hewitt was in their gym like at 7 a.m. And I remember him saying, "Hey man, that dude is a grinder," and I thought to myself, I'm not grinding, and I need to get back to doing that. So I think that we've turned a page. I think we're where we need to be. We're off to a decent start recruiting. We got 3 commitments, but still we're a long ways from being done.
Bill Self is our guest, and not looking at the past, but wanting to focus on this team with your players. It's one thing for players like Ochai and Christian and David to not be on the floor. What's it like trying to fill those roles program-wise of what they brought to the table?
Well, I think the reality of it is I need to and we've done it a lot. So we've had, I think, 3 different times where we've lost all 5 starters, actually won the league the next year. It's either 2 or 3, and we've lost 4 starters multiple times. Well, this time we lost 3 starters, and we lost 5 really, really good. I mean, we've lost 5 really good players. But I think that if you put on a uniform and you recruit to Kansas, the expectations shouldn't change.
Yeah.
I really do. Even though we won't have an Ochai Agbaji, collectively we need to play to that level. And even though we won't have a David McCormick but collectively, those guys need to bring something to the table that's comparable to what David brought to the table. And I've said this all along, faces change, expectations do not. And that's kind of been a motto for us. It'll be a big challenge this year, but I expect us to be, competitive and good. I know it's going to take time, so I don't need to be impatient. I remember we lost, the Morris twins and Brady and Tyrell and Tyshawn Taylor and all those guys, and we were awful the next year, but we did make it to the national championship game, and at least late. And I kind of see this team as being one, hopefully by league play, we could be pretty hard to deal with.
Bill Self says they will play for national
title.
title.
No, he did not say that. I said that team did, but I do think that we could be a pretty competitive team, though.
Bill Self is our guest. How do you? Okay, so the number 5 is next. Players see this. Number 5 is next to the school in the preseason polls, and so whether they're returning or recruits or not, or had a big say in that national championship game. How do you fight against? So you talked about with coaches, we're not grinding, we're not doing the things we need to do after the championship game back in 2008. So how do you fight against maybe the players stepping in and going, yeah, we won the national title, and it's like, well,
we talked about that a lot. As a matter of fact, in practice, we've actually done a pretty good job with good reason to humble them from believing that, because we're not close right now. The reason we're preseason 5 is because of other people's performances and success that they had that are no longer here. So, and then of course you could add in Juan and Jay Will, but I've always looked at those polls differently. Preseason 5, does that mean we're the 5th best team when it starts the season? Or preseason 5, that means we should be the 5th best team when the season ends? And right now we're not to start. But could we be by season's end? I don't know. But if guys develop, I think we can be in the game again.
Bill Self is our guest. From players, going through this season and building a program overall, what do you think a story like Remy's would do for specific players moving forward? So a guy that gets on the team and has to figure it out, right? Yeah. Playing with different teammates, injuries, noise that's going on, and, well, it's just not going to work. All right? He just shouldn't be a part of the rotation. And then he hits some of the biggest shots in KU basketball history. Yeah. What can that do as just an example of, look, it may not be working for you today, in December.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I met with all the players and the families the other day at late night before, and I said, you know what? It's amazing to me that, you could look at Ochai's family or Christian Brown's family or David McCormick's family, and at some point in time, it did not feel great. And it's going to happen to your son. It's going to happen with you too, because it can't be that way. It's you have 13 guys that all think they can good enough to play in the NBA, and so how is it going to work out perfectly for 13 pros all to come in and live out their dream at this moment in time? And it doesn't work that way. It doesn't. And so I think that the fact of the matter is understanding that, we've been decent for a while. So what we're doing probably is, at least above average on developing teams. So just kind of Joel Embiid, kind of trust the process, and knowing it may be a different guy every night, but when the time's right, it'll be your son's time when the time is right. But he will determine when the time is right. It's not us determining, and it's kind of hard for people to get that, because every kid on every team in the Big 12 was the best player on their high school team. And now they're going to a situation where they may be the 10th or 11th best player on a team, and it's totally new and nobody's ever experienced that. But if you can just hang in there, it usually works out in the end.
Bill Self is our guest. We're at Big 12 Media Days. So one of the things that has been a conversation we've had since the end of the season, and some coaches retiring as well, is that Bill Self is now the face, the voice of college basketball. what do you think, or how do you respond when somebody says that, it was K or Jay Wright when it was NIL, or this is now the emphasis, freedom of movement, this is what college basketball is going to be, lower the shot clock. Well, let's go hear what K and Jay Wright has to say, that those in the business say, well, that's now Bill Self. So if anything's going on in college basketball, let's go talk to Bill Self, see what he has to say.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite like that. And when you talk about the voice of college basketball, as long as Calipari's going to have a microphone in front of him, it's going to be hard for anybody else to be the voice of, which I think that's actually good for our sports. We need somebody like that that's always thinking outside the box and promoting games. I mean, promoting our game. But I won't look at it any different. Certainly. To me, Coach Krzyzewski was the face of college basketball. I know the other coaches have done remarkably great things, and it's okay to have it's okay to have a Mount Rushmore. But if you're looking at the president of the United States, it would be Coach K when it comes to men's basketball, in large part because of the Olympic team and all the success that they've had. Winning 5 of them at Duke. But I do think that there's an opportunity for some new faces and some new voices to be heard. And I don't know if I'm one of those, but I hope I am. Because I have certain opinions about certain things. But I don't know that I want that. You know what I want?
You want to be the one that everybody calls the DeCourcy's and Metcalfs and everybody's
I just want
Goodmans
I just kind of want to. Well, Goodman, you don't want him to ever call.
Right.
But I just kind of want to coach my team.
Yeah.
But I do think myself and obviously Izzo and Few and Calipari and there's obviously more. And we have guys in our league, Hugs, Beard, that will be looked at as far as nationally and people value their opinion. But there's also some young up-and-comers too. The preseason #1 team in the country played for the national championship last year, and the coach is a second-year coach. So Hubert will be a big face in what's going on. Shire will be a big face in what's going on forward. So there's multiple guys, but it does seem a little strange to have, Jay obviously, and then Roy and Krzyzewski, and then there's going to be more soon, whether it be Boeheim or.
You think he'll? I don't know that he'll ever retire.
He may not. He may not.
It's going to be 102.
Yeah, that's probably true. But there's some more that have been Mount Rushmore types that will not be in our program, will not be in our sport, and they'll have to find new faces to fill those roles.
What do you think of Bill Self as our guest? What do you think when you see a guy like Jay Wright that says, "I'm at the top of my game, but I'm stepping down, I'm stepping away from it"?
I think it's great. I do. Bob Stoops did the same thing at Oklahoma. There are things more important than coaching ball or whatever. Family, grandkids, health. You could list of whatever it is, and when the time's right, a lot of guys will do it. The time's not quite right for me, and so I'm fired up to see what we can do with this young group, and then I'll be more fired up to see what we can do with the young group next year. But there's something about it, putting the pieces together and getting the team to perform at a ceiling, because only coaches know where the team's ceiling is. They're the only ones that are with them each and every day. So to have in your mind what a team's ceiling is and get your team over a course of months to perform up against that's still what drives me each and every day.
Bill Self is our guest. Dude, do you look ahead? And so you mentioned that you love it that Jay Wright would make a decision when the time is right for him, but it's not right for you. Do you look ahead? Can you picture yourself being 75, walking the sidelines at Allen Fieldhouse?
No, that will not happen. This is it's going to become a younger man's game all the time. You look at the NBA and you got head coaches in the NBA that are 33, 34 years old. I mean, it's a young man's game, and I still think that I'm in that mid-range. Even though
mid-range jumpers aren't good anymore.
Yeah, they're not. And probably mid-range coaching isn't either. But I've always thought, because I got started at a pretty young age. I'm a head coach at 30, so I was always a young up-and-coming coach. And now I'm not. I mean, I'm not. It's not. I mean, now I'm on the. I may not be on the not only on the back nine, I may be playing 15, 16, 17, and 18. And so so I know I'm not that, but I don't. It's not time yet. There's too many things left. I want to try to conquer the game more. You can never conquer the game, but the more you know about basketball, the more you realize that you don't know. And I still want to try to figure out a way to, Mr. Iba, he passed away trying to figure out the perfect offense to run against any zone. Okay, how do we fill the high post? How do we fill the short corner? How do we do this? How do we do that? Because we don't want to have an offense against a 2-3, a 1-3-1, a matchup, all this stuff. We need to have one thing that we go to, and so that all the guys know this, and it works against anything. I mean, this is a guy that invented passing game, and he's still trying to figure it out. And that's kind of the longer you coach, you realize how much you don't know. Andy Reid is way ahead of his time. I mean, let's just look at it. Inside the 20, red zone, the creative things they do to make it fun and all that stuff, and people talk about it on TV way ahead of his time. But I guarantee he hadn't figured it out yet either.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody will figure out some way to stop something that they do, and he's got to come up with something totally different. And that's the way it is in sports. And so that's getting the puzzle to fit is still so much fun to me.
Do you copy, but take and see some of the things that other coaches are
Absolutely.
doing and say, we need to incorporate this?
I steal from everybody.
Yeah.
And really, we thought, and my assistant coach Joe Dooley tells me this all the time, there was a time 20 years ago, the Europeans, God dang, they played that ball that's so skill-driven, it's soft and all that stuff. No, what they were ahead of the Americans 20 years ago. We just didn't realize they were. And so you can study many of the overseas ball, the creative ways that Fran Fraschilla sent me something, and I'm actually amazed by it. It's 3-on-3, and all the creative ways you can score with the with three guys that we don't even use with 5. And so how can we implement that but still take away all the weak side help with the other 2? I mean, those are the things that you want to try to figure out, So instead of trying to incorporate 5 good players, how do we just incorporate 3 and hide the other 2 so that way their man isn't always in help position? I mean, there's things like that really kind of fire us up, and so I'm excited to attack that. And when I said about Andy, I don't know Andy personally. I mean, we text every now and then, but I mean,
I don't know him personally. I just text him.
That dude is. I mean, he and Bieniemy offensively. I mean, they look different than everybody else. I mean, it's the creative things that they come up with, and I think in basketball we gotta always try to. You can't stay one step ahead, but just stay ahead of the posse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bill Self, head coach of the Kansas Jayhawks, national champions, but turn the page champions. Turn the page champions. Yeah. Bill, really appreciate the time. Thank you so much. I know you got other commitments, but enjoyed it, and best of luck and success this year. Again.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. There's the head coach of the Kansas Jayhawks, Bill Self, joining us here in the Zone. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk with Jerome Tang coming up next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Did he, how did I miss that?
You were probably talking over him.
On Sports Radio 810.
All right, we continue hanging out at Big 12 Media Days. Jason Anderson with you. We head up until 2 o'clock. Right now, getting a chance to talk with the head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats men's basketball program, Jerome Tang, here with us. Jerome, how are you, sir?
Man, I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me on, Jason.
You look like you're having a blast, and at least you look that way. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the opening press conference and from when people have seen you talk and been around you, certainly seems like that's the aura and the presence you have when you're around people.
Well, I've waited almost 20 years for this opportunity, and understand that it's a blessing, man, and just want to make the most of it. And it's why have it if you're not going to enjoy it?
Yeah.
So
why now then? I mean, you said you've waited 20 years. It's not. I mean, this isn't the first opportunity that's been. That you've had a chance to. But why now? Why K-State?
First of all, it's in the Big 12.
Yeah.
The best basketball league in America. We have an unbelievable fan base, right? And the best predictor for future success is past success.
Yeah.
And it's only one of 3 schools that have won 2 Big 12 championships in the last 10 years. And so the opportunity to win a national championship and, having done one as an assistant, my dream is to hold the whole net up, not the string. And so
that's an interesting way of describing it. It's sort of like your dream is to be one seat over.
Yeah.
Right? That one seat makes a difference. Holding the whole net, not just a string, can make a difference as well. The one thing that I thought was interesting about, you mentioned it's in the Big 12. You're familiar with it. I think there may be a difference in like a coach from outside, a coach from the West Coast, the East Coast, wherever it might be, and say, okay, I think I can succeed at Kansas State. Okay, I met with them. I met with Gene, and I see what's going on from afar. Okay, cool, that's fine. And then you get there, and it may be different than what you thought. From your perspective, you've been around it. You know K-State, right? You've played against them. You know Manhattan. You've been around it. You know the fan base. So I think it may be even different when you say, now's the right time for me, and this program is also a testament to the program because you're not going in with an unknown. There's more of an eyes wide open deal with you taking over at K-State.
I really think knowing the league gives us an advantage as a staff coming in. We know what it takes to win in this league. We know that 7 of the top 15 defensive teams in America last year are from our league. We know you got to have tough kids, a certain mindset going in. And I have relationships with all the referees. It's not like they're going to come into a game and say we got to establish ourselves against this new coach, or that I feel like I have to establish myself against these new referees. I know them, and know coaches' tendencies. But at the end of the day, it just boils down to, can you get players there? And there are a lot of really, really good basketball players who are great human beings that want to play and live in an environment like Manhattan, Kansas. And we're going to get them there.
Jerome Tang is our guest, head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats, getting the players there. An adjustment from being an assistant coach to being a head coach. This is not to say that Kansas State can't or won't get players there. That's not the case at all. But I think at Baylor, the evolution of your recruiting, I'm guessing, went from we've got to find players somewhere to then we got to choose which players are right for us. Like we can land all these guys, but which ones do we want? As opposed to early on, we got to go find some players. I don't think it's like the beginning of Baylor, but it's probably not to where it's just picking and choosing what may have gone on at Baylor with you and Scott. So what's the adjustment been like for that in terms of recruiting and maybe different players and different phone calls?
Well, I think the philosophy is the same, that we're going to pick guys that fit who we're about, right? And regardless of talent, right? That's the thing, because you may not get a guy that goes to another team and he beats you twice a year, maybe. But if you take the wrong guy, he beats you every day. Okay, so we got to stay away from the guys who beat us every day. And then there are enough really good players out there that we can be selective and bring. Because, why? So people would say when we first got to Baylor, they couldn't win and they couldn't develop pros and they couldn't do. There's always something we couldn't do, and we'd say why. why not? We're looking for the guys who say, why not at Baylor? And we're going to find guys who are going to say, why not at K-State?
Yeah.
And we should be able to recruit the best players in America.
Visiting with Jerome Tang, what's success in year one for you, do you think?
All right, well, the coach answer is that we're going to, win every day. Go 1-0, and we're going to do that. If we do those things, then, at the end of the year, you and I are having a different conversation. And as a high school coach, I never started the year without thinking about what do we need to do to win the last game. As a coach at Baylor, every year we talked about what do we have to do to win the last game. And at Kansas State, we just had an etiquette dinner, and most people do the climb the ladder, practice cutting the net, winning championships. I want to have dinner at the White House, and so we're going to have an etiquette dinner. So when we go to the White House, we know how to act, and that's the plan and why we are here at Kansas State.
And that's part of the between the years, right? The belief of making them say, oh, we're practicing it. Why? Because if we didn't think it was a possibility, we'd be wasting our time right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, Jerome Tang is our guest. I've always wondered this, because it's year one for you and the success of even practicing the etiquette, right, of eating at the White House. Is there an unspoken sort of belief among coaches that best of luck in your first year, but don't have too much success? You want to ease in, because the last thing you want to do is set the bar that high in expectations. You want to sort of have a good year one, but then start to build on it. Is there like an unspoken type deal with coaches that may be out there of don't go too good too fast?
Yeah, no, I've heard it from people who love and care about me.
Okay, so you have heard people actually say,
yeah,
wow.
They've coached me. Hey, man, if you don't think you can be really, really good, then don't be in between, because your second year you don't want to be worse than you were your first, and that the other. Jason, there's just nothing inside of me that allows me to go into a year not trying to win, and so we're gonna be the very best that we can be this year. Exactly what that ceiling is, I'm not sure, but it could be pretty high, and so we're gonna pursue it that way, and then next year we'll take next year one day at a time.
What your staff right now and the guys that you've assembled around you, if you look back the last couple of years at Baylor, were these the names and faces that you envisioned your staff looking like? When you take over, then maybe something's different, or here, this conversation over there. Was this staff here ever when I get my head coaching job, when I get my shot, he's on my staff, and that's how I'm going to win.
This is my dream team. I'm just blessed that I'm in a place where I could afford them. I thought there was a time when they had all gotten I didn't think my first head job was going to be in the Big 12 at a school with this kind of tradition and history, these kind of resources. And so at some point in time, I didn't think I could afford Uric Malachi. I was blessed to be in a situation where, I didn't have to ask him to make a bad decision for his family in order to make a good decision for me. And, I was there when he got married. I was there, when he got baptized. I was there at his father's funeral, and so, we talked for years about working together. Jareem Dowling I've known for 14 years, and I actually performed his wedding to Sierra. And so, Marco Bourne, I've known him over 12 years, and Kevin Sutton over 25. And, I got a group of guys that I said, man, if I could ever get all of them together in one place, there's no way we're not going to win.
What does the familiarity do? All of those guys that you've known for over a decade.
It's fun to get up we don't, my alarm clock was set for 6:30 this morning. I was up at 5:20. We don't need an alarm clock to wake up to go do the job, what we do. We don't have to hit the snooze button. There's some places guys are working and they hit the snooze button dude, I don't want to go in today. And we're up before the alarm clock, and we're excited to go into the office. It's fun to be around each other. On our days off, we spend time together, and we'll probably go on vacation together, right? Because our guys are going to they see that. Our guys see that and feed off of that. Jason, if you came and spent a day with us, I'd want you to walk away and go, man, it felt like a family reunion. And that's the culture and environment I want to build. and we got it.
Yeah. Visiting with Jerome Tang, he's the head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats. I'm assuming you're finally getting used to that as head coach of, because there's a different feel of this is the first Big 12 Media Day where you are the one making the rounds. It's not like, hey, you're back home and dealing with the players and stuff that are there. Scott's going to be off with these players. No, you're here with your players. You're the one doing all the media. There's a different pressure even one seat over. From one seat closer to the scorer's table. There's that added pressure of being that guy.
Yeah. Jason, I'm sitting in the car in the parking lot waiting to come in, and I call my wife, and I said, I'm a little torn. Just want to make sure I don't put my foot in my mouth. But I have this great belief in our team. Do I share this great belief I have, or do I downplay it, not raise expectations, all of that? We're going through all that because that's all I'm concerned about. I'm not thinking about Big 12 Media Day. It's just, and I walk in and the first interviews with King McClure. So King McClure played for us at Baylor. I offered him as an 8th grader. I watched him. I've been through a lot of things in my life together with him, when he's doing his TV games for ESPN, he says he gets text messages from 2 people, his mom and me.
Oh, wow.
Right? Hey, say this, do that, And here I am, King's interviewing me, and so it made me say, forget about worrying about what you say. Just enjoy this. This is pretty special, and so.
Yeah. Your opening press conference was kind of like that. It's I don't know that I've ever seen anything like that, and I don't know that really anybody in this business have ever seen anything like that. I'm assuming you've heard that since that opening press conference of just how blown away people were. I don't know if coaches actually care about winning the press conference or not and making that first impression. But if there was ever a win of a first impression of press conference, I think you set the standard or you raise the bar of that.
Well, thank you very much, because I've had some athletic directors before tell me that they wanted to win the press conference. That's why they couldn't hire me. And so
wow.
that was me being me. That was my staff telling me, hey, be you. Don't do what everybody else does. And so
I'd like to know if the coaches that wanted to win the press conference won games with the guys they chose. I'm not going to ask you who, but there's curious in the back of my mind. They chose this guy. They didn't win games, but man, what a great press conference! If you can just roll that press conference during the games, fans would be really happy about that. Jerome Tang is our guest. The foundation of a program when you're taking over something like that, because it's not Baylor, it's not some of these other teams in the Big 12. It's going to be your program at Kansas State. Defense was something that you guys at Baylor really started to hone in on and craft and win a national championship with. And there's all these different styles that are out there. It's hard-nosed man-to-man, which we just talked to Bill Self. There's matchup 2-3 zone that Rick Pitino runs, the pack line with Tony Bennett, 2-3 with Jim Boeheim. There's all these different things, and the no middle is a defense that obviously is something that's becoming more known when you talk about the great defenses in the Big 12. Is that a foundation for this program, that no middle defense? Is that what Kansas State fans are going to see, that what they would probably be used to seeing with Texas Tech and Texas with Chris Beard and Adams and those guys that have run that no middle that you guys were doing at Baylor?
I would say that's going to be a foundation of it, a variation of it. I think everybody has
their own spin on it, right?
Yeah, that they like and don't like. I got Uric Malachi on staff, who was at Texas Tech and Texas, and I have Dream Dowling, who was at North Texas, and North Texas, I think they were number 1 in the country in points allowed last year, and they played a no-middle defense. Dream was also with Donnie Tyndall at one time.
Oh, yeah.
And at Southern Miss, and he played the same zone we used to play at Baylor, so Dream has a grasp of both of those. So I got guys on my staff that understand that, but at the end of the day, you got to guard the ball and you have to rebound the ball. And I think that's something that we're top 5 offensive rebounding at Baylor, and we're solid defensive rebounding, but that's something that we have to do better. And the game is simple, and so every day we talk about let's do simple better, and rebound, defend the ball and then rebound the ball, and limit them to one shot.
having sort of a style or what you might be known as, does that matter to you? Like some coaches might be an offensive coach. Tony Bennett was defense, and it's slowing the game down, maximizing possessions, being more efficient. But you're never going to win that way. You'll never win that way playing that style of basketball until you do. Does it matter if Jerome Tang's Kansas State Wildcats, this is the style, the brand of basketball that you're going to get with them? Does that matter, or is it just they're going to win?
No, it's just about winning. And we always say there's a lot of ways to get to 4. 2 + 2, 1 + 3, 2 × 2. It's all different ways to get to 4. I think each team and the makeup of each team determines the style. How you're going to play offensively. If you've got, if your 5 best players are guards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you only going to have 3 of them on the floor at one time? If you're, 4 of your 5 best players are forwards, why would you only have 1 or 2 of them on the floor at one time? You got to figure out a way to get your 5 best players on the floor, and then how do they play together and maximize that?
Yeah, that's and so it's just about, I guess, being fluid year to year. Like it would be more recruiting players and figuring out how they fit rather than recruiting a specific player for, okay, we need this guy that can front the post over here and is going to be able to step down and cut off the baseline and take a charge. And this guy at this school does that specific thing, so that's who we're grabbing. Over this guy who's probably better, and we'll figure out a way to be a better team with this overall better player.
Right.
But we need that specific player plugged in right there.
Yeah, so I'm not bought into a system. I want to win. And now, hopefully we get to the point to where we say, okay, this is how we want to play. We feel most comfortable playing that way. At Baylor, it was the 3 guards and, a stretch 4 and a big who could rim run and catch lobs. And, I love playing like that. But if that's not the strength of my team, then we're going to figure out a different way to play.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it does every coach sort of like hey, we're going to get out and run and have fun offensively, or there's got to be some coaches that are like, no, that bothers me. I want what I dream of. What gets me going in the morning is watching that guy step into the lane and take the charge and get up and point the other way, and the crowd's going crazy, and the octagon of doom is going nuts, and everybody's this momentum is there, and everybody's going crazy with that with the charge, not the lob, but and the dunk.
Well, I think regardless of how you play offensively, defensively, you got to guard the ball. You got to be able to protect the rim, whether it's blocking shots or taking charges.
Yeah.
And then you got to finish with a rebound. You got to. If you can't rebound, you're not going to have fun in the Big 12.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's the final piece of the defensive possession.
Yeah,
give them an extra possession. Have you thought about what it's going to be like when you walk in there to Bramlage in the first game and that thing, kind of getting charged up and the atmosphere and what that can be when it's at full throat and the fans are going crazy?
Yeah, I have, and I'd be lying to you if I didn't say I don't get emotional thinking about it. I'll probably have to catch my breath a few times. I've invited David Kelly was the pastor of First Assembly of God who hired me, and Dr. Jennifer Cooper hired me to be the basketball coach at Heritage Christian. That was my first basketball coaching job. And I've invited both of them to come to the first game. And so that's going to be pretty cool, and just the whole thing and seeing the students tear up the newspaper and do the thing. I'm fired up about all that, and then I'm going to have to regroup and get down to trying to win a game.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Because, I mean, the energy is brought, at the beginning it's brought with the fans and the excitement, but as the game goes on, it's brought with you and your team. I mean, that's how you get the Octagon of Doom back to being the Octagon of Doom, is when those players are doing their thing.
Yes, sir.
And then you build off that as well. Last one for you. You've been around a specific coach for a long time, and there are people that have been, vice presidents of companies, and they've worked with CEOs, and then they get to be a CEO of their own company. And how much do they just take what the guy who they were around that long and just sort of copycat that? How long do you think it would take, or if it does change, but incorporating you in your style, knowing that there are people that have been successful and there are things that have worked there, but ultimately getting into, this is Jerome Tang as a head coach, and it's not Jerome Tang taking from or trying to be a little Scott Drew or a little this guy or a little that guy, and just being you.
But, working for Scott, he's allowed me to be myself.
Yeah.
And he wanted us to be the best version of ourselves every day. And so what I learned from Scott is the value of being a servant leader and humility. And I hope to share that with our staff and our players, but I'm going to do it in my way.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to be myself, for them to get the best version of me. We say things we're probably going to say to give the same message. We're just going to deliver it a little differently. And I'm probably a little bit more passionate and a little bit more intense. And so I need a staff who's going to, come along and let them know Coach loves them.
Yeah.
That's
right.
but that's why we're real intentional about our family dinners every Sunday, either my house or somebody on staff. And we spend a ton of time with our guys away from basketball so that we earn the right to coach them really hard on the floor. And so I think I'm pretty comfortable being me.
Jerome Tang, head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats. I'm looking forward to it. Best of luck. I thought it was a fantastic hire, and when you say you're intense, I think we saw that at the at the press conference, and it'll be interesting to see the coaching style on the sideline too. Like how intense, how much are you going after the refs, how much are you doing? Or you said the officials, which is good. You already got the names down. They already know. You could maybe work them a little bit. You're gonna have to do that. But seriously, congratulations on the opportunity, and best of luck there in Manhattan, and hope everything goes well. And looking forward to conversations down the road and a successful run there for the Wildcats. Thank you so much.
Well, Jason, thank you for everything you do for the state of Kansas and sports here, and just appreciate you, and good luck moving forward.
Absolutely. There's Jerome Tang, head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We continue rolling more Zone right after this.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. You're in the zone.
Nonstop. Right hand, left hand, nonstop, Josh.
With Jason Anderson.
At the time, it is the only thing I want to do.
Yeah.
The next day, I 100% regret it every time.
Yeah.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you on this Wednesday edition of the show. Heading up until 2 o'clock, one more hour to go, hanging out at the T-Mobile Center for Big 12 Media Day as the basketball coaches making their rounds. And we got a little lucky in that both KU and K-State's live radio scheduled time was between noon and 1. Which is an opening because we had Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and then we had an opening before Mick Shaffer joins us in the 1 o'clock hour. So certainly appreciate Bill Self and Jerome Tang stopping by and talking with us about their team upcoming season. Jerome Tang taking over both the stories of that, like Jerome Tang taking over a program, 20 years in the making for him, from a high school coach to now the head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats, and what it's going to be like moving one seed over, the pressures of that, what it'll be like in Bramlage Coliseum, and he knows he's going to get emotional the first time he's on the sideline there at the first game of the season. He's going to have to, sort of keep himself contained a little bit, and then Bill Self just talking about, winning another national championship. Kay, Roy, Jay Wright out of the game. Now people are going to go to him to ask him things, and he's like, yeah, I get it. I don't really want it. I just want to coach my team. Talking about Boeheim and how old he is, and Bill Self is like, no, that's not me. Right? Because I asked him, I'm like, are you a 70-year-old walking the side? No. Oh, no, that is not me at all. Can't imagine that. My time's not yet. It's not yet, but it will. A time will come when I'm not going to be on the sideline. It's not yet. I'm still enthused and fired up and everything. So that, talking about defenses and all the different things that he copies from other coaches and brings in.
He's about to be 60, though, right?
He's 59.
December.
Yeah, so mark it down. He will not be 70. He will not be in his and coaching basketball. He will not be a 70-year-old coach at KU. So
in 2032, Bill Self, at least by then,
there will be
find somebody else.
There will be another coach at Allen Fieldhouse in 2032. So bank on it. Okay, I'm going to, in fact, DraftKings future prop, Bill Self over under 9.5 years coaching more. I'll take the under.
Do the under
on that one.
Inside info.
Yeah, I read it at covers.com. It said take the under on that prop. Parlay it with Jim Boeheim being 102 and still at Syracuse, yes. Walking the sidelines and still trying to find that thing in the nose. And still digging to get that one. It's been elusive for so long.
And if Bill goes against his word and you lose that bet, call him back up. He's like Vegas. He's got about that much money anyway. He'll reimburse you.
He'll have 10 more years of earning. I'm hoping he could reimburse me the $10. I'm really looking forward to get that $18.50 back in 2032.
Don't take the Boeheim over because you also have to be alive to cash it. So that run just some free investment advice.
Good point.
Don't take that risk. It could be 65 more years.
That's true.
We were talking with Gurley one time, and Bill had kind of thrown him under a bus at a press conference saying Gurley never picks up the tab, and we were like, "Is it true, Greg? You never pick up the tab?" He's like, Bill Self makes $5 million a year. Of course I don't.
Yeah, 5.
Look at the time it was 5.
Yeah, was that 2009?
Yes,
it was a while back.
It's 5. Good for him. I mean, but that's absolutely true.
Of course not.
It's like, man, you never pick up the tab. I'm interning. You're the CEO.
My parents are retired. They still pick up the tab when we go out for dinner, okay?
Oh, that is great. I mean, you got to love the guys who made $10 million. Like, this guy never pays over here.
Yeah.
Let's play the credit card game. Let's not.
It's not. Okay.
I got salad for a reason. Okay, and the salad was $35. All right. I looked at the menu right to left. Okay, that's how I came here. I'm not trying to play the credit card game. Very risky. Very risky. Not going to do it. All right, no way. You ever played the credit card game at the restaurant?
No,
Nick?
no, I don't. I don't run with high rollers like that. I also am not one, and no. Maybe if we went to Wendy's or something like that. Gladly play the.
But then how do you get because you don't
and
pay
if
at the
there's-
end?
And if there's two of us, and if one's my kid, yes, we'll play it. I'll play the game.
His credit card is actually just your bank account.
It is.
It's the same thing.
Account.
Ooh, I lost. I guess I'll pay for it this time. Ooh, hey, you won or you lost. You get to pay
It's
for
like
it.
every
Wait, I'm paying for
birthday
it.
present that I've received in my adult life has been out of my account. I basically bought.
That is
Thanks,
true.
honey. You bought this from our account.
But it
I
is
saw
like
it go out yesterday. Yeah.
Right, but the birthday present for your significant other, I'm buying a present for my wife. It's from the same account that
Same
she would
account.
draw from
It is,
if she
yeah.
were to buy that
It
herself.
is literally only the thought that counts.
That really
and in fact,
is.
I've had pushback before saying, that's too much. I agree.
Can we take it back? Yeah, so at least you know that's how much I was thinking of you. That's the dollar sign next to my thoughts about you. Now, we can get a little bit of that back, but my thoughts and what I feel about you still remain.
My thoughts were of getting you 2 cars like they do in those Christmas commercials in the snow, with the bow on it. But that's just my thoughts.
Honey, I got you 3 purses. All right, I don't need all 3. Oh, okay, well, let's take 2 of them back. But I thought you were good enough for 3.
I got you a Louis and a Vuitton purse. Okay? This one just has the L's on it. This one just has the V's. What, you're saying they're knockoffs? They don't split? Louis got one, Vuitton's got one? Okay.
Yeah. This one over here, that's a Versace. You got a Chi right there, okay?
Yeah.
Put them together, all right? You got a Louis Vuitton and a Versace. You're golden.
Got you a Dolce and Gabbana.
That's right. We're going to go on vacation. Where are you going? We're going to go to Turks this time. We went to Caicos the other time, but not going to happen this time. We're not going to both. No way. Trinidad, nah, Tobago. We are. I don't even know. It's a soccer team. Who knows? We're hanging out with Mick Shaffer, NBC 41. He's the sports director there. It's interesting, the time where the media day for basketball happens right smack dab in the middle of the NFL and college football. SEC Media Day going on.
Week, right? It's 4
SEC
days at
football
least. Oh, football
is 4 days. Basketball's a day. Same amount of teams. The teams aren't different. You're not going down to 2 teams or 3
time
teams.
spans are about right for both.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just means more in one sport, just means less in the other.
And I think a little bit is, that one is baseball's going on, which, I love baseball, but in the South, it's just the Braves. So in the SEC, you've been waiting all summer. Then you get there, and this is the kickoff to football before the kickoff to football. So everybody's about it. It's content you finally have for all your shows. And basketball gets here, and it's they certainly have invested a lot more in basketball in the SEC, and the Big 12 we know that has done that as well. But the college football's already going on. That'll get here in December and January with the college basketball they care about. But it's how much content are you spending on Florida basketball when Florida's getting ready in football for a huge game, and you're still discussing whether or not you like Billy Napier.
Yeah, Blair Kirchhoff and I have talked about this, and if if Blair agrees with this, then you're on to something, because he's like, I don't really get a handle on college basketball till January 1st. I'm like, I'm the same way. Right, you have the Champions Classics. We pay attention to those because KU's in it. Okay, those are big games, but it's okay, how good is Michigan State this year, right?
Yeah.
Is a typical Duke team, all that stuff. Same with KU. And then you got some one-offs here at T-Mobile Center, play some games, but you really don't have a handle because you're paying attention to so much college football, and yet college basketball starting earlier and earlier. We were talking last night at the station how this is the busiest time of the year in sports, middle of October. NBA started last night.
Absolutely.
In NHL, you have Major League Baseball playoffs. They've been great this year. They're going on. And then football, NFL.
High school
college,
football still going on.
It is up and running. So it's the busiest time, and it's busy for us. It could be so much. I wish it was so much busier. I wish the Royals were still playing. I wish there was an NBA opening night right here in this building last night. How cool would that be?
That'd be cool. Beards, would you have enjoyed an NBA opening night with the Celtics taking on the
Kansas City Bootleggers? I don't know.
Yeah, the Bootleggers.
Incredible. That's how that would be.
Yeah.
It
Beards,
sounds
you
so
would have
good
called in
that I
sick.
got a little sad that it didn't happen.
Yeah, Beards would have called in sick today.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to the Celtics game. Whoa. You're going.
Beards doesn't really pay attention to the news. He just shows up every year on NBA opening nights in front of T-Mobile Center, hoping maybe this is the year. We have a team.
Maybe
okay,
this year it'll be the team.
He's camping out for tickets a week before it
Dear
opens
Santa.
in Boston, hoping it'll open up here. There's no ticket to the box office. Where's everybody at? I'm here first, baby. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it could be busier.
But yeah, and late night around this time is always kind of the kickoff to the college basketball season. It seems like late night's getting earlier and earlier each year. I think they had it.
It's like Black Friday starts on Tuesday now.
September one year, like weird September 30th. And we were talking with some of the KU players about. I was like, there's just so much involved with winning a national championship, right? You almost go like it's a tour, almost like you're Miss America, right? And you celebrate. It's deserved and it's so fun. We just asked him, okay, when did the celebration end? When did the euphoria of winning the title end and the next season begin? And I honestly thought they were going to say, man, it was next day or May or whatever, June. They're like, it's late night.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you carried it that long. Yeah, late night. We turned the page. I'm like, good for you.
Well, that's one of the things.
Celebrated for months and months.
Yeah, that's one of the things.
I feel like maybe Bill might have turned the page earlier.
Well, that's one of the things he was talking about is, I asked him, like, okay, he had mentioned turn the page, and I said that, how much do you take away from 08 to 09 versus now? And he's like, well, it's you learn from those things of, and he told the story about he's like, after 08, he's like, I'm just not grinding, right? I was there grinding. Paul Hewitt plays for a national title at Georgia Tech. The next morning at 7:00 in the morning, he's at a high school coach's office talking about a kid he was going to recruit. And he's like, and so in the summer of 08 to 09 season, and he was like, well, I'm not doing that. That's not me. I need to be doing that because I win the national title because of what I had done leading up to this. And so he's like, that's in the back of my mind. And he's talking to the coaches of like, we got to get these guys. And he had said that they've been doing a lot of humbling this summer because I had said along the lines of, sometimes, you change over this team. You got two returning players that played significant minutes and a lot of new guys, but guys that wore the jersey and are national champions, but didn't really play in the game to win the national title, and new guys walking in that, hey, I'm playing for the reigning national champions. And he was like, oh, yeah, that's we've talked a lot about that. We've been doing a lot of humbling this summer.
It's the toughest practices he's ever gone through.
Really?
Yeah.
That would make sense. That from the look on his face of we've been doing a lot of humbling this summer, I think there was a little bit of they were still riding on cloud nine. That those that were stepping into starting roles and things like that were already I'm a national champion too. It's like, well, yes, you are. Bill Snyder talked about it. That Bill Snyder talked about the players he recruited at K-State to then build the program. He loved doing that because those guys were part of building it, and then the recruits at that point that he was in living rooms he wasn't in before, right? He's talking to other players before they come in, and it's like, well, yeah, I'm playing for K-State now. Right, but that's not how it got here. And it didn't get here from guys just stepping in and saying, hey, I'm a K-Stater, and look at that, we got a chance to win the Big 12 and play for a national title and all this other stuff. Yeah, I'm here, and Bill Snyder, one of the best coaches. And the same thing, I guess, going on with Kansas and the Jayhawks of, hey, I'm a Jayhawk national champion, baby. Number 5 preseason. We're expected to do it again. Be right there at the end.
Couple things. One, I feel like, at least for my KU friends, the 2009 season, 08-09, was the most stress-free season of KU basketball ever because you had a couple holdovers, a young Sharon Collins, a young Cole Aldrich, and that was it. No expectations. And they make a Sweet 16 run, and everybody celebrates it, right? It was the only time in KU history they celebrated because I think they lost to Michigan State that year as the 1 seed. Maybe they were the 4, something like that. Only time they ever celebrated a Sweet 16 loss, right? And so it's really going to be, I think, a honeymoon year. The other is Kevin McCullough. How about him? He was here last year with Texas Tech.
With Mark Adams walking around, yeah.
He's got three of the Big 12 coaches have been his coaches. Chris Beard, Mark Adams, and now Bill Self. I took a picture of 10 of them, like the Big 12 coaches, all 10 of them. 30% of coaches, Kevin McCullough.
Wow.
And, of course, he was, I believe, a freshman on that 2019 Tech team that almost won the title.
That's right.
So he's been around the block. Yet somehow, he's still a junior. And how about this? Jalen Wilson is a sophomore somehow.
Yeah, like what, redshirt?
Gonna be.
But
redshirt and COVID. I've seen Jalen Wilson play in 3
point.
seasons, okay? I've seen him play in 3 seasons.
No, you haven't. No.
I have.
He's a senior, damn it.
He's still only going to be a sophomore.
Yeah. I mean, what Bill Self talked about that, they lose to VCU in 2011 and they come back in 2012, and he's like, we weren't good. We were just not a good team. And we played for the national title that year.
Yeah.
And he was talking about this team. It's like, we're not good. We are so far behind right now. And so I joked and I wrote it down. I said, Bill Self says they will play for national title this year. And he said, no, Bill Self did not say that. It's
That's
like,
right. 12 the same way. Nobody had expectations. They had no
Mhm.
McDonald's All-Americans on that team. Yet they run all the way to the and honestly, run into, one of the greatest college basketball teams of the era.
And they
Right.
gave them a run.
And they lost by 8.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't get blown off the floor. I mean, they were right there with them, and KU was making a run, and, Kid Gilchrist made a couple of big plays. Anthony Davis was amazing, and a guy that scores like 8 points but was easily the best player on the floor. They were right there. And he obviously not saying that this team is going to play for a national championship, but saying – the feel around this team is kind of like that 2012
it's
team
a relief. You play
of when they've got a lot of work to do, and they were not
easy,
good then at the in October of 2011, because that was the 2012 tournament. So October of 2011, he's like, they were not good. And right now, October of 2022, they are not good. Not good is a relative term, by the way.
It is, yes.
We are not a good team. Sure you're not.
Right.
I guarantee you're a good team. Go around to other colleges and see how
I want
good
to be not good. I want to be that kind of not good. Please, sir.
We're just not good with these top recruits. These guys returning that cut down the nets. And Juan and Jalen being a part of this team. Just not very good right now. Just not very good. Yeah. So I mean, look, I'm looking forward to the college basketball season. It's going to be fun with new coach in Columbia, new coach in Manhattan, new face of college basketball in Lawrence, which is what it is. He's the face and the voice of college basketball.
I thought of it that way, but with Wright being done and
Jay Wright's done, Kay's gone, Roy's
retiring.
gone. Myron Metcalf is the one that said it to me after the national title and after Jay Wright retiring and stuff.
In the Hall of Fame already.
Yeah, and he was like, "Look," because I said, "Is he the face, the guy like best coach?" And I asked, "Is he now the best coach in college basketball?" He goes, "I'll go you one further. He's the face of college basketball now." He goes, "When something comes up, when it's NIL or when they lowered the shot clock or when they had the emphasis on freedom of movement," he goes, "anything like that moving forward, the first phone call all these people are making is to Bill Self. It used to be to Kay or Roy or Wright. Izzo is still there, Boeheim as well." He goes, "But when it's Bill Self, who is very known, has 2 national championships, is still, top of his game, he's the guy everybody's going to call now. And it's going to be his quotes that are used about what he thinks of where the game is going."
Yep. And he's never really shied away from talking about just kind of the maybe a global bird's eye view perspective on college basketball. And he's always been really good at giving his opinion, yet not ticking anybody off, right? He's going to give his opinion, this is how I feel, but just kind of balance it with some sort of levity and some logic there to where, like, he was a strong opinion on this divisive issue, but nobody's getting mad at him.
Yeah, and he did offer some self-deprecating humor when I asked him that, and he was talking about, he's like, "Well, look, a voice of college basketball, as long as John Calipari has a microphone, then
That's pretty good."
Yeah, that's true. That is absolutely true. That guy will always, and that's what, that's kind of one of the things I was alluding to a couple weeks ago when game day was in Lawrence with football, and saying that, Bill Self, you don't want him being the celebrity picker. Let Lance Leipold and the football have their day.
Yes.
It's the national champion basketball team, but the last thing you want to do is continue to remind Lance Leipold that he's at a basketball school when football schools are going to be trying to get him as the head coach. And I bring that up because there's a huge issue. Maybe they've squashed it now, but, a month or so ago is when basketball and football at Kentucky started fighting because Mark Stoops was getting a lot of love, and John Calipari at a big event with donors and boosters and everything said, "Oh, make no mistake about it, we're a basketball school." Like, he went out of his way to and said, we are, make no mistake, I love what's going on with other sports at this school right now, but we are a basketball school. And I'll tell you what, that pissed off Mark Stoops.
Absolutely.
And they started butting heads, and now you got the best football coach in their program's history and a national championship winning Final Four, John Calipari coach on the basketball side, butting heads. You don't want that anywhere. You don't want that anywhere.
No.
You want there to be enough air in the room for both of them. And I think Bill Self is perfectly fine with Lance Leipold getting his love.
He absolutely is, because he's said it for years. In Kentucky's got to have the same dynamic in that Self's always said for years, it's like, we need to have a great football program. I want that because we've pretty much maxed out our dollars that we can get revenue-wise from basketball. It's a lot. We can't give up. There's a ton of room. There's a lot of room from where we are now to the ceiling when it comes to football. And we've learned football can bring in so much more than hoops, even when it's a Kansas basketball brand.
They ain't hurting for recruiting. Kansas is not. But it does help if the stands are packed on a Saturday in the fall when you're taking your recruits there to go and watch the game and showing them the campus. And, by the way, we're going to go to and we're recruiting against Texas. And, this kid that we're trying to get, from Chris Beard in Texas, he just went to that Texas game. And Arlington, it was sold out, or Austin, it was sold out, and Matthew McConaughey's there on the sideline and all that stuff. And now we're bringing him here to this football game, and Les Miles is the coach, and there's 8,000 people in the stands. And they're like, oh, cool, so much fun, Bill. I just had a blast.
Late night's always been the fall event.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's been late night.
Come to. And so, and then also the packed stadium bringing in so much more revenue, and you get more boosters on board, and football. I mean. Not really what do you call a sleeping giant at KU, because they've become a giant, but there's a lot of missed revenue there. There's a lot of money to be made there, and it feels like Self's always realized that. And I just when Calipari did that, I didn't quite understand why he didn't realize that, or maybe he's just so narcissistic that he didn't like that some of the attention was taken away from him.
He's the Kentucky coach. You want him thinking that anybody else on that campus should deserve any credit whatsoever. In fact, he probably thinks Mark Stoops' success is partly because of John Calipari's basketball success. You're getting those players there because of basketball.
You're bringing them to basketball games.
That's right. You're taking
February. You're doing that February signing period.
You brought that football player to whatever the Kentucky calls their big deal. It's not late night, but whatever they end up calling it. Like, you brought him to that. That's why you ended up getting him. They met Drake. They met Jay-Z at our event. That's why they're going to football there. He probably thinks that. I mean,
it's funny. I mean, just the step from becoming not a championship winning coach to having won one is a big one. But it almost seems like it's almost big of a step going from 1 to 2, and not just college basketball, but like in NFL as well, quarterbacks wise, right? I mean, just
a lot of quarterbacks have won 1 Super Bowl.
They have, and when you get to 2, it's just a rarer air, and it puts you in elite class, and it almost like just puts a stamp on your legacy to where like you're still motivated after one. Like Andy Reid with the Chiefs, I could see that being okay. He gets a second, then okay. Retirement could be in the very near future after that.
It's a good transition. I don't know if you heard the press conferences with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes today or not, Mick, but we played them right here on our station, and Josh, listening in and obviously taking notes like we do when we're listening to him. There was a subdued tone to Patrick Mahomes today. There was a very low key feel from Patrick Mahomes today. And I don't know who asked the question or what the specific question was that he got into talking about. Yeah, I mean, that's how he starts it.
Every time.
And he was saying that, you win a MVP your first year. You win a Super Bowl. Yeah, when I was younger, that's, air quotes. When I was younger, you thought that was going to be every year. That it was, I win an MVP. It's just working with Andy Reid. You win an MVP, you win a Super Bowl. This is how it's going to be all the time. And then you lose a Super Bowl. And then you lose an AFC Championship game, and you're coming off the loss to the Bills where you had a couple of interceptions and you had the mistake in the end zone, and then the Bills got you on a defensive call that you thought they were in something else. There's some humbling that goes along the way with struggles, and I don't know if it's just maybe I was reading too much into the level of energy at the podium. I don't know, but it certainly sounded like, Josh, I mean, you were listening too. It sounded like it was more of a low-key, subdued Patrick Mahomes. Maybe I'm missing something, and I was here with all the other stuff going on. Did you hear that, or am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that you're like deeply off base. I didn't think about that in real time. I think it kind of sounded like a Patrick Mahomes Wednesday in the middle of a week that's probably been pretty frustrating, going back and seeing where his mistakes were against the Bills. And I do think that if there was one spot I was gonna hone in on in terms of like the demeanor, the question about, hey, got the bye week on the other side of this. The Niners haven't done a ton this year. Is everybody locked in? The answer was something along the lines of, They'd bleeping better be because this look, I don't know if Bose is playing or not, but if he gets around the corner, he might knock my head off. So I really hope everybody's invested. And I think the Chiefs also know that losing this game, losing to the Niners and making it 2 in a row and 3 out of 4 would feel a lot worse than it's felt over these last few weeks as they've currently been. This would really feel like it was compounding some issues. So I could see it being a little. What was LeBron always saying? 0 dark 30. That might be overstating it a little bit. It's not a military operation, but that very locked in mode.
He does that before the playoffs, where he goes like radio silent on social media.
Sure,
that's right.
Or if the team's bad and he's trying to make the playoffs. Like this year.
When he goes radio silent to publicly begin stating that the roster's not good enough.
82 this year. I don't know what to tell you.
They are on pace to go winless this year.
Not a lie.
Yes, the Celtics on pace to go undefeated along with the Warriors. They're the only 2 teams that are on pace to go undefeated this year. But look, maybe it's coming off the loss. Maybe it's playing the clip from Travis Kelce earlier in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe my antenna was already up. Maybe thinking that was going to be the case of Patrick Mahomes, but I don't know why. I could be off base, but it felt like it was more subdued with Patrick Mahomes and maybe a more frustrated. I don't know.
I haven't picked up on frustration since the loss on Sunday. Almost like just kind of like perspective.
Yeah.
In that like they're to the point now where the Patriots were for so many years. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get beat in October.
Yeah.
That's fine, and it's actually okay too that it's a contender. It almost seemed like they're okay. If this is the best team in the AFC, then we can get there, right?
Yeah.
We got blown out by 3 scores last year against this same team. We made it up in the playoffs and beat them there. It's almost like to where like Mahomes was talking about where he would have been as a youngster. They put so much into that Patriots game on the road, and they almost got it done. To where it's like they realize it's way more of a marathon now, and 5-1 would be great, but 4-2 is doable too, and you realize there's steps to winning, and it doesn't have to be 100% all out every single week. It's funny because we talked about that at the Bucs. How do you get that every single week? Maybe the answer is you don't get it because you can't exhaust yourself, you can't expend yourself that much.
It's impossible.
And so that's what it's almost been kind of this perspective and acceptance from the Chiefs. Like, okay, no, we wanted to win, absolutely, but it's not the end of the world. To where like the Bills are maybe like the Chiefs a few years ago, to where like, okay, we took care. That the year they beat the Patriots finally in December, got over the hump. Like, the humps are in January.
Yep.
That's when they are.
I am not saying,
it's
Josh.
Hump month.
Hump month. Everybody knows
the
this.
Wednesdays in January.
Yeah, because you're cold, you're huddled,
Yes.
you're very much trying to find your warmth with other body temperature warmth, and it becomes hump month from that. And not comparing Josh Allen to Alex Smith, and we'll take a timeout, but the Bills' victory over the Chiefs and the headlines in the Buffalo newspaper of "Hail to the Chief, one giant leap."
2017 opener.
It felt like the Chiefs have caught the Patriots, and Patriots are behind now. Okay, now this is a team that can win the Super Bowl. Again, not saying Alex Smith is Josh Allen, because the Bills have a much better chance of winning the Super Bowl than that Chiefs team did, as we look back and see the difference of those teams. But it does have that little feel of, okay, you did it. You got past them. Right, but you did it last year, too.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens in hump month of January. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Final hour on a Wednesday, hump day edition of the show. Speaking of that, Mick Shaffer joins us, KSHB 41 sports director. Hey, guy. Huh? How you doing?
Humping away.
Yeah.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, Beards, Mick Shaffer. We had up until 2 o'clock. The program with Reid and Patrick comes your way at 2. We're hanging out at the T-Mobile Center. Big 12 basketball media days going on here in KC. Talked to Bill Self and Jerome Tang earlier today and heard from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, Cynthia Frelund as well, weighing in on some of the questions we've had this week about the Chiefs and the defenses running more man-to-man against the Chiefs, the offenses they're going up against running more heavy personnel with fullbacks and 2 tight ends and even an extra offensive lineman. Like, what are you seeing from that? And her big takeaway from the game, besides just the general reaction that everybody had of, hey, 2 good teams, anybody could have won, play here, play there, was what the Bills were able to do against the Chiefs on passes of 15 or more air yards. That Josh Allen was 9 of 10 for 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, and
wide open.
Perfect passer rating. When the ball was in the air, 15 yards or more down the field, he had a perfect passer rating. That's not typically what you see in the NFL, especially for a guy who lacked accuracy coming into the NFL. But he was brilliant in the game, and it might just be the younger corners, the injuries, and one-on-one against Josh Williams, and no pass rush.
In the lead there, no pass
well,
rush.
That too. Yeah, all of those things, kind of everything. Everybody's just a lot of ingredients in this dish for that 158.3. So we typically would do shot clock reviews here where we would go around, and we could actually use the shot clock here at T-Mobile Center. That would have been great. You know, we could have just put it at 24 and not 30. That would have been fine. We're not going to do that, though, because we need to get sad fans.
Yeah.
We've had sad fans in the previous hour, but Bill Self, Jerome Tang, rather hear from them than sad fans. Beards, I know that yesterday you had mentioned that maybe there was some lean commentary on Reddit from Chiefs and Bills that maybe there needed to be a supplement here or there?
Yeah, so Chiefs fans really let me down with how upbeat and happy they were about the loss.
They're accepting, too.
Yeah, so, you know, there might be something else in here other than just some sad Chiefs fans, but, well, you know, we'll see. Okay. You'll just have to listen to it and find out.
Let's do it.
And now, a list of things that Kansas City Chiefs fans said on Reddit after losing to the Buffalo Bills. I was just permabanned from the Raiders subreddit. Let's go! McCall, now is not an appropriate time to dap up Diggs. If only Clyde didn't run into the back of the lineman and rather into the open hole, we would have a better run game. Tackle ball carriers with your arms. These head tackles are ridiculous. I was told that the Bills' running game sucked. Somehow, the Chiefs' defense has determined that hitting hard equals making a tackle. Holy will they ever call holding? Did Chris Jones Goodell's wife or something? It seems like every play he's getting held without a call. Defense is looking like the 2018 Chiefs. If only the offense looked like the 2018 Chiefs. Comment. Allen is dropping back 5+ yards and we can't get any pressure. Facepalm emoji. Reply. He could drop back 2 yards and we wouldn't get to him. Ball players who bet on themselves usually have great years. Orlando Brown. Hold my beer. Okay, now I'm a little upset with the defense. Can these announcers gobble Josh Allen's anymore?
Of course there's that.
Sorry-ass defense just erased all the good they had done so far. That was truly pathetic. Oh, you bums. Imagine having a secondary. The amount of times that we almost have a great stop on defense is maddening. There's the Butker we know and love. If it ain't a difficulty of greater than 95, he loses interest. Why in the name of do we have Williams on Diggs? 2 slices of Williams toast so far. It's just absurd that we are still going single coverage on elite receivers every game. The all-scrub secondary. Big oof to that 3rd and 13 at the Bills' 1-yard line. game. Whatever. At least House of the Dragon is on tonight. 2 opportunities to go and win it, and we like puppies on the porch. This ain't it, Chief. Good game, but yikes, our offensive play calling is sus. Some of these blitz calls from Spags hurt my soul. Patrick throws into triple coverage. This sub, god defense sucks. Brace yourselves for the Josh Allen writing. Fire our offensive tackles into the sun to the same spot we fired Bob Sutton. And now, the runner-up. If the universe decrees we take an L in the regular season to get a win in the playoffs, who am I to disagree? And now, the winner of things that Chiefs fans said on Reddit. Where's the post-game thread? I want to overreact. And now.
What?
A special edition Sad Fans on Reddit.
Bonus.
A list of things that Denver Broncos fans said on Reddit.
What?
After losing on Monday Night Football.
Yes.
LOL. Somehow Drew Lock's offense was more productive. I am in disbelief. Comment. Can we hire Sean Payton yet? Reply. Does he play quarterback? Why is existence pain? The fans. Pain. Russ. Paid. Jesus Christ. Comment. Refs are trash. Complete trash. Reply. We're trash. They gave us literally every chance to win, and we f***ed it every single time. We're on to the Nuggets. I'm just broken inside. If he has a bad leg, I have a bridge to sell you. $250 million for the same version of Teddy Bridgewater. Broncos country. Let's take a cyanide. We keep calling these low percentage passes on 3rd and short. Washington's blocker shouldn't have been up all in his face like that. Our offensive line is Halloween October scary bad. At least the Avs won? I would say this is a top 5 Bronco performance from Russell. He needs help.
Oh.
Hell is watching the Denver Broncos in 2022. Comment. So how's that 2024 quarterback class looking? Reply. Because we for sure can't look in 2023.
Yeah.
Thanks, Hackett.
No.
Why do I always subject myself to this pain? Glad I stayed up till midnight again to watch them lose. I was perfectly fine losing on a field goal, but the Broncos had bigger plans for me. Fuck off, LMFAO. Horse team bad, sad face emoji. I don't like the NFL anymore. Russ is Herbert's overrated. Chargers kicker, drama queen. No winners here. Please help me. My favorite horse team is trying to kill me. We're going to lose to the Jets and the Jags, aren't we? I love the Broncos, but God, I hate this team. Wilson was cooking today. 15 of 28, 4 of 13 in the second half and an overtime, 1 first down in the second half, and a field goal-led possession in which he actually lost 8 yards. Browning pick, 0 first downs in the second half, and leading the Broncos to a loss. You know who we should feel bad for? People in London on October 30th. God, I hope they set their expectations low. This game is making Tim Tebow look like Peyton Manning. An 0-6 team with a 2-4 record. This is probably my angriest season ever as a Broncos fan. Didn't think that was possible. Broncos country. Let's get off this ride. Hilarious. I thought we sucked for the last 6 years. This is a whole new level of trash. Impressive. This is f***ing eye cancer. The Chiefs have nothing to fear. Division is theirs for years. And now, the runner-up. This team makes me physically sick. I'm close to vomiting from the disappointment. Embarrassing is an understatement. I'm actually disgusted. See y'all next Sunday. And now, the winner of things that Broncos fans said on Reddit. At least we went out, played our best, and had fun.
Oh my goodness! Thank you for the bonus edition of Sad Fans. I thought
Some,
the Chiefs was still pretty good though.
Some breaking news to go with all of that here. Beards, do you have it for me? Breaking news from Denver. Nathaniel Hackett says Melvin Gordon will start for the Broncos against the Jets this week.
Boy, that is, I mean, that is so Mike Matheny level of what do you actually think of this particular person? You pinch hit for Michael A. Taylor one night, and the next night he leads off. Melvin Gordon can't get in the game over a guy you pulled off the practice squad from the Saints a week and a half earlier, but he's going to start this week. Unbelievable, man. You couldn't give the ball to Javonte Williams because Melvin Gordon had to be on the field. But he can't be on the field with Latavius Murray. Like, it is what a train wreck, man. Just an absolute train wreck. My winner of that one was we are on to the Nuggets.
I like that a lot.
That was a good one.
What an effort, too, by Beards.
Yes.
In that, like, he has to go through – that's like 10
double
minutes
time.
of stuff. And about, I don't know, you help me out here, Beards, 200 cuss words you got to bleep out there? and at least to my ears, you didn't miss any of them.
I did not. I vet these about 2 or 3 times before I play them just to make sure.
That's good.
It's great work. Frankly, nothing from any radio show I have been a part of in any way has ever gotten more unanimous praise than Sad Fans on Reddit. And part of it, Beards, is you smell blood in the water. And right there, you smelled some Broncos blood in the water. And you think, let me poke around. It just A-plus effort there. You put up a much better effort than either the Chiefs or the Broncos. You actually are in first place in the AFC West now, Beards.
I'll take it.
I do think the Redditor is right. I think Chris Jones may have bleeped Roger Goodell's wife because he's not getting a hold. I think that commenter might be correct. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up the show next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Donnie Edwards had adult braces, which is a sign of weakness.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, that'll do it for the show, but just a couple of more. Bob Costas. Game 5, of course, an elimination game. Win or go home, if you will. Funnily enough, this reminds us of the crushing housing crisis and eventual bubble that will burst, throwing everything into uncertainty. Ron Darling, cut fastball, just missed there. Bob Costas. As we travel through a galaxy whose vastness is beyond our comprehension and exists as but blips on the radar of this universe's eternal timeline, baseball gives meaning to an otherwise pointless existence. Ron Darling. Might throw a slider to Stanton here. It's one of the best things going on Twitter right now. The Bob Costas and Ron Darling chatter.
Costas, overrated as a broadcaster. Sorry, great host.
Brian
Calling
Anderson.
games, no thanks.
Brian Anderson in for Bob Costas. So Brian Anderson, Darling, and I can't remember who else. Thanks, Mick.
Tomorrow.
See you guys.
Hi, guys. It's Andrew. Are you struggling with erectile